You think modern recipes have it all figured out? Think again. The 1970s kitchen was a powerhouse of creativity, resourcefulness, and bold flavors that today's cooks have completely forgotten. Here are 100 forgotten recipes from the 1970s that have disappeared forever. Country Captain was a dish that came right out of the South of America in the 1970s. In specific, I'm referring to Savannah and Charleston. It didn't stay in either of its hometowns, though, because soon this curry was going to take the entire South and nation by storm. It wasn't common to have subcontinental food and concepts yet, really. I mean, we had shawarmas, delis, and the odd dish that went naan, but it wasn't anywhere near to being an everyday fact of life like it is today, or even just a national interest. This tomato-based curry sauce proved that making a curry doesn't have to be a hard endeavor, just an incredibly tasty dinner. The advent of canned tomatoes is what I think really helped here. People had the rest laying around. All you needed were warm spices, onions, bell peppers, and some curry powder. But it was the canned tomatoes that were the star of the show. Country Captain doesn't just have a history with families who are down on their luck, it's also something commonly served in mess halls for the military. It's been overtaken by 100 different curries today, but no one can forget the times when the Country Captain used to be a name you got happy to hear. Gazpacho shots brought a cool Mediterranean breeze to warm American evenings and made every casual gathering feel like a fashionable European cafe. Ripe tomatoes, crisp cucumbers, green peppers, and a splash of red wine vinegar were blended until smooth and then chilled until the flavors mingled into a refreshing soup. Instead of serving it in a traditional bowl, hosts poured the mixture into tiny shot glasses or small tumblers, turning a humble peasant dish into a glamorous party starter. Guests could sip it like a drink or tip the glass back in one smooth motion, savoring the cold burst of garden-fresh flavor that cooled the palate instantly. Preparation was wonderfully simple. A few minutes with a blender, a quick rest in the refrigerator, and it was ready. This dish appealed to health-conscious diners exploring lighter fare and adventurous partygoers eager to try Spanish-inspired flavors. In an era obsessed with convenience but open to international ideas, gazpacho shots delivered sophistication without a single moment near the stove. Their bright color and lively taste made them an unforgettable highlight of any 1970s soiree, proving that 5-minute recipes could indeed be both bold and refined. Of all the southern dishes out there, spoon bread may be one of the most overlooked. Call it strange. It is not cornbread, not pudding, but in between and very, very delicious. Picture a dense cornbread sandwiched with butter, which has to be eaten with a spoon. That's spoon bread. And when you bake it in a casserole, the flavors that come to your home are nothing short of heavenly southern flavors. My grandma had perfected this recipe over the years. She had a way in which she mixed the ingredients to achieve a fine texture that resulted in a perfectly golden brown loaf when baked. I think that the composition of the spoon bread casserole is all about the proper texture. It is very soft and fluffy, easily crumbles on the tongue, and contains a somewhat pronounced corn taste, which allows it to complement almost any dish. Finally, place a pat of butter on top, and what you have is a bite that's buttery, cozy, and simply delicious. It is one of the examples of dishes that do not aim to be trendy. They just become one. If you've never had spoon bread, you're in for a surprise because there's really nothing like it. It is the epitome of comfort food, and after having a taste, it just leaves me wondering where this food has been all my life. Cranberry cream tart was the dessert that proved tart could still mean tender. A buttery crust baked crisp, filled with smooth cream and crowned with sugared cranberries that glistened like rubies. The balance was everything. The sweet richness of the filling softened by the berries' sparkle of acid. Each slice was a reminder of holiday beauty done simply. Bakers in the 1970s loved its elegance, the way it looked more complicated than it was. Served chilled, it cut clean and perfect, the kind of dessert you served with pride. Cranberries popped softly between your teeth, their flavor bright against the velvety cream. It was festive, but refined, charming but effortless, exactly what the era celebrated. The cranberry cream tart wasn't just a recipe. It was a portrait of the season, graceful and full of light. Spanish rice accompanied many cafeteria entrees as a side dish that added color and flavor to otherwise plain plates. Long-grain rice was cooked with tomato sauce, diced onions, and green peppers until each grain absorbed the tangy red sauce completely. Seasonings like cumin and chili powder gave the rice warmth without overwhelming heat that might offend young palates. The rice could be prepared in enormous batches and held warm in steam tables for hours without losing quality. Served alongside enchiladas, tacos, or simply as a side to chicken dishes, Spanish rice provided carbohydrates with more personality than plain white rice. Students who initially viewed the red color with suspicion often became devoted fans after tasting its mild flavor. Cafeteria workers appreciated how Spanish rice stretched budgets while adding visual appeal. This side dish proved that simple preparations could transform ordinary ingredients. Oat avocado pineapple salad was one of those curious combinations that only the 1970s could have produced. Avocado halves were scooped and filled with pineapple chunks, then topped with a dollop of mayonnaise or sometimes cottage cheese. The result was a creamy, tangy, and slightly sweet side dish that looked exotic at potlucks and luncheons. Housewives appreciated it because avocados were gaining popularity and pineapple, whether canned or fresh, was inexpensive and readily available. The pairing of fruit with creamy dressings was a trend that defined the decade, and avocado pineapple salad fit neatly into that mold. Guests were often intrigued by the unusual combination, and while some loved it, others hesitated at the blend of flavors. Still, it represented the playful experimentation of the time, when food was as much about presentation and novelty as it was about taste. Avocado pineapple salad, though nearly lost today, stands as a snapshot of a decade that thrived on curiosity and creativity at the table. Chili Mac combined hearty chili with macaroni noodles to create a filling, budget-friendly casserole that became a favorite during the 1970s when families sought affordable, easy-to-make meals. Using inexpensive ground meat or beans, canned tomatoes, and basic spices, the chili was simmered into a rich sauce that soaked into the tender macaroni, stretching the meal further. This dish was often baked with a topping of cheese or breadcrumbs when available, adding a golden crust that made it feel more substantial. Chili Mac was a one-pot wonder that could feed a crowd and was perfect for leftovers, making it a practical choice for families managing tight food budgets. Its combination of protein, starch, and flavor made it a comforting staple during colder months or any time when a simple, satisfying meal was needed. The dish demonstrated how creative layering of basic ingredients could turn humble staples into a hearty feast. One of the easiest things you could make for yourself back in those times was a nice, piping hot plate of macaroni with some butter and salt. The idea for most working-class homes or even middle-class homes back then was to save whatever they were earning and put it away for property. Despite having a job, or hell, even multiple, and despite both the mom and dad working, people were barely making their savings among the costs of everyday living, meaning that they still couldn't really afford any kind of spending for the sake of it. In times like that, comfort food would be hard to get. You would settle for things like beans and toast, but let's be honest, how is that making anyone's list of comfort food? I thought so. On the other hand, macaroni was the perfect thing. Chewy, munchable, perfectly easy to make, cheap, packed, and needs next to no prep work to make a whole thing out of it. I mean, you can't call spreading some butter and salt prep work, right? Even my niece could do that. Macaroni with some butter and salt was a pretty anxiety-free way to unwind with a comfortable meal as you watched your TV, preparing for the next shift. Stuffed celery with pimento cheese combined cool crunch and creamy tang in a way that belonged on every 1970s party tray and buffet table. Fresh celery stalks were washed and cut into bite-sized lengths, their natural hollow centers waiting to be filled with a rich cheese mixture. A quick blend of shredded cheddar, mayonnaise, and finely diced pimentos came together in seconds to create a spread that was bold, colorful, and addictive without needing any cooking. The sharpness of the cheese met the gentle sweetness of the red peppers, creating a balance that pleased both children and adults alike at every gathering. Hosts loved that the snack stayed crisp and fresh on a platter for hours, allowing them to mingle instead of rushing back to the kitchen or worrying about soggy bread. Because every ingredient came straight from the refrigerator or pantry, preparation took no more than a handful of minutes and cleanup was almost nothing. Served alongside crackers or as a simple side dish, these stuffed stalks delivered a satisfying crunch and a creamy bite that perfectly captured the decade's love of easy entertaining. Quick, colorful, and delightfully nostalgic, it remains a timeless 5-minute recipe that still wins hearts today. Orange cream gelatin parfaits were bright as morning light. Served in tall glass cups, they layered orange gelatin with creamy vanilla pudding, a playful mix of texture and color. The contrast made them as beautiful as they were refreshing. They tasted like dreamsicles turned elegant, each spoonful both cool and comforting. For 1970s hosts, they were a way to bring color and joy to the holiday table without breaking a sweat. Children loved the wobbly layers. Adults loved their nostalgic charm. Topped with a swirl of whipped cream and a slice of mandarin orange, they glistened like little suns on the table. The first taste was silky and citrus sweet, a small escape from the winter chill outside. Orange cream parfaits carried that balance the decade loved, playful yet polished, easy but never dull. They were desserts you could see before tasting, and somehow that made them taste even better. Every layer held light, laughter, and the brightness of simpler times. Fiestada Mexican Pizza introduced countless American children to flavors beyond their family dinner tables throughout the 70s. These hexagonal treats featured a crispy, tortilla-like crust topped with seasoned ground beef, refried beans, and melted cheese that turned bubbly under commercial broilers. The beef was seasoned with cumin, chili powder, and garlic, creating an aroma that announced Mexican Pizza Day throughout school hallways. Unlike authentic Mexican food, fiestadas were designed for institutional efficiency, arriving frozen and requiring only reheating before service. Students loved the crispy edges that shattered when bitten and the stretchy cheese that connected each piece to their mouths. Some cafeterias added shredded lettuce and diced tomatoes after baking, while others kept them simple. The hexagonal shape made them distinctive and memorable, setting them apart from rectangular pizza squares served on other days. Fiestada represented the cafeteria's attempt to offer variety through food. Golden Glow Salad was another brightly colored creation that turned up at nearly every church gathering or family potluck. It was made with orange-flavored gelatin mixed with grated carrots and crushed pineapple, a combination that blended sweetness with a touch of vegetable crunch. Housewives would prepare it in large molds or pans and slice it into cubes or wedges, sometimes topping it with whipped cream or a creamy dressing. The bright orange color made it visually striking, earning its name as it seemed to glow under the lights of buffet tables. It was sweet enough that children loved it, but the carrots gave it the illusion of being healthy. Families considered it a salad even though it leaned more toward dessert, because gelatin salads were a category all their own in that decade. Golden Glow Salad showed how creative cooks could get with inexpensive pantry items, turning 3 simple ingredients into a memorable side dish. Though it rarely appears today, its place in 1970s potluck culture was nearly guaranteed. Mock chicken salad cleverly used canned water chestnuts and mayonnaise to recreate the crunchy, creamy texture of traditional chicken salad without the expense of real poultry. This budget-friendly recipe allowed families to enjoy the familiar flavors of a classic lunch without splurging on meat, especially during times when fresh chicken might be hard to come by or too costly. The water chestnuts added a satisfying crunch that mimicked shredded chicken, while mayo brought creaminess and tang. Adding a few pantry staples like chopped celery, onions, or pickle relish enhanced the flavor and kept costs low. This salad was perfect served on bread, crackers, or as a simple side, and it helped stretch limited resources in a creative way. In the 1970s, when convenience and thrift were essential in kitchens, recipes like this made a big difference. Mock chicken salad proved that affordable ingredients could come together to create a satisfying, familiar meal with minimal fuss and maximum flavor. I think we're all very used to seeing soy sauce on our shelves now, but where did the trend of pairing rice with soy sauce start from? If you take a deep look into the culture surrounding the 70s, you might be surprised to find more than one answer. Let's start with the obvious one, the ever-rising popularity of Asian culture. We'll say this was the oil. Then, let's move to the second one, which massively increased Asian immigration thanks to the Nationality Act in '65. We'll say this was the match. What you get is a wildfire of convenience foods and budget-friendly alternatives in a country that's slowly finding itself on the doorstep of a fast food-induced health crisis. Where do you think we go from there, keeping in mind our budget? Rice and soy sauce? Sounds good to me. Rice wasn't just something people relied on for food or sustenance, it became a friend in tough times. Despite that attachment to the grain, few people in America knew how to do anything out of the box with it. And when Asian immigrants came along, they didn't just bring their sauces, they brought their skills, and that's why we can make soy sauce 10 different ways today. There is nothing like fresh collard greens and ham hocks, or better yet, those flavors in a warm, delicious stuffing. This dish, as you may well imagine, is a complete Southern-style meal in one pot packed with lots of delicious yummies. Picture this: soft, boiled, freshly cooked green collards with pieces of ribs and fat of ham combined with cheesy sauce. Of course, it is the type of food that keeps you warm from the inside when the outside world is cold. My grandma had a certain method of preparation for this meal by using a pinch of hot sauce. Trust me, it changed the whole thing. The collard greens then introduce that earthy taste, that slightly bitter feel on the tongue, and then everything else tastes sweeter. And the ham? It's the salty figure that now enjoys its well-deserved attention after being overshadowed by the density of the casserole. This was not a side dish, but a main dish, which was served mostly at family occasions. The best part? It tastes all yummy and southern, yet you don't have to wash many utensils, pots, and pans after preparing it, all in one dish. If you have never attempted a casserole similar to this one, you are missing a great meal. It's comfort food at its finest, and every bite feels like a warm hug from Grandma herself. A little collards, a little ham, a whole lot of love. Now that's what I call Southern soul food. Cheddar Apple Snackers brought a playful fondue-inspired flair to quick entertaining, pairing tart, crisp apple slices with the sharp bite of good-aged cheddar. The apples were cut into thin wedges and arranged on a chilled platter, while the cheese was sliced into tidy squares or small sticks for easy picking. The sweet juiciness of the fruit balanced the salty richness of the cheese, creating a combination that felt both comforting and surprisingly elegant. A light drizzle of honey or a sprinkle of cinnamon could be added at the last second for a little extra warmth, though the pairing needed no embellishment to shine. This snack became popular at wine and cheese parties where guests wanted something light to nibble on without a full meal. Parents also used it as a fast after-school treat that managed to feel special while sneaking in a bit of nutrition. Ready in the time it takes to slice an apple, Cheddar Apple Snackers captured the 1970s spirit of easy entertaining and inventive flavor pairing, proving that sometimes the simplest ideas are the ones everyone remembers. Quick, old-fashioned Divinity candy shimmered like snow caught in sunlight. Whipped from egg whites, sugar syrup, and a whisper of vanilla, it demanded precision and patience. The process was an act of faith, beating, stirring, and waiting until the mixture turned cloud-like. In southern kitchens, it was made by grandmothers who knew just when the weather was dry enough for it to set. Divinity was delicate but proud, its texture melting on the tongue like spun sweetness. Each piece was dropped by the spoonful onto wax paper, crowned with a single pecan. It filled candy tins and mason jars, shared between neighbors as tokens of affection. Its white, glossy peaks seemed almost too perfect to eat, yet they were gone in moments. Making it was as much tradition as recipe, a quiet measure of love passed down through generations. Today, few take the time to make Divinity, but for those who remember, one bite recalls Christmas mornings, gentle voices, and sugar that seemed to hold light itself. Peanut butter bars satisfied the after-lunch sweet tooth while delivering protein that helped students focus through afternoon classes. A base layer of oats, flour, brown sugar, and butter was pressed into sheet pans and baked until golden. Creamy peanut butter was mixed with powdered sugar and softened butter to create a thick filling spread across the warm crust. The final layer of chocolate chips melted over warm peanut butter created a glossy, dark topping that firmed as it cooled. Cut into small squares, these bars were rich enough that modest portions satisfied completely. The combination of textures made eating them an experience requiring attention and appreciation. Schools could prepare massive batches that held well throughout lunch service without refrigeration. The ingredients were affordable and the recipe forgiving, allowing even inexperienced bakers to produce consistent results. Peanut butter bars became trading currency in cafeterias, with students offering milk cartons and fruit cups for extra squares. Celery with pimiento cheese was a simple but striking buffet favorite that added a pop of color to spreads filled with casseroles and meats. Celery stalks were trimmed, chilled until crisp, and then stuffed with a bright orange pimiento cheese spread. The combination of creamy, sharp cheese with crunchy celery made for a satisfying bite. It was inexpensive, easy to prepare, and visually appealing, which is why it appeared at so many parties, picnics, and luncheons. The pimiento spread itself was made with cheddar, mayonnaise, and diced pimentos, giving it a tangy and slightly sweet edge. Children enjoyed the crunch, while adults praised its nostalgic flavor. It was often arranged on trays in neat rows, making it look both tidy and inviting. Celery with pimiento cheese was the kind of dish that carried Southern influence into mainstream gatherings during the 1970s. Though overlooked now, it once stood as a dependable, cheerful option that could be counted on to disappear quickly from the table. Vegetable and rice soup was an economical and hearty soup that combined inexpensive rice with a medley of vegetables to create a meal that could feed many without overspending. This simple soup was a staple in 1970s households that needed to stretch food supplies while still providing warmth and nourishment. The rice added body and sustenance, while vegetables like carrots, celery, onions, and canned or frozen greens contributed flavor and vitamins. Often simmered for long periods, the soup developed a rich taste from basic ingredients, making it comforting and filling. Leftover bits of vegetables or herbs could be tossed in, reducing waste and adding variety. This soup was versatile enough to be adapted depending on what was on hand, making it perfect for families facing uncertain food availability or limited budgets. Vegetable and rice soup was a prime example of resourceful cooking in the 1970s, turning affordable staples into a reliable and satisfying dish. I don't need to tell you about grits with cheese. We all know about grits with cheese. What you may not know is that this pretty much used to be the lifeblood of so many folks back in the deepest pits of the 70s. See, the highs of the 70s are definitely something to look back on fondly, even reminisce about. A cultural revamp. New artists are pushing boundaries in music. Advancements in tech and infrastructure that were slowly changing life in general. The internet wasn't that far away either. What people don't talk about is that on the flip side of this, there were families that were living off of just grits, and if they could spare some, cheese. The cheddar was one of the most common ingredients to put in grits. Processed cheese like Velveeta was something people used back then, but the idea was to basically just enhance the flavor along with some butter and salt. It would make for a decent breakfast, it was versatile, and it was already a tradition in the South. The country had just re-entered the workforce as some semblance of stability was finally achieved. It took a long while for things to truly settle down across the country. In a decade obsessed with quick elegance, nothing else came close to this 5-minute classic. Pineapple cottage cheese salad offered the kind of sweet and savory combination that perfectly captured 1970s creativity with canned fruit. Thick, golden rings of pineapple came straight from the can, their syrupy edges glistening in the light of a retro kitchen. A generous scoop of creamy cottage cheese was placed in the center, creating a soft contrast to the bright fruit. A single maraschino cherry on top gave a pop of red that looked cheerful enough to make any dinner plate feel like a celebration. The beauty of this recipe was its complete reliance on pantry staples that were always on hand and needed no heat or chopping. It was cool, refreshing, and surprisingly filling, making it a favorite for potlucks and quick weeknight sides alike. Children loved the hint of sweetness, while adults enjoyed the light protein boost that kept the dish from being a pure dessert. Served on a bed of crisp lettuce or plain on a small saucer, it carried a quiet elegance that fit right in at backyard barbecues or church socials. In under 5 minutes, anyone could create a dish that tasted indulgent yet wholesome, proof that the 1970s knew how to dress up even the simplest ingredients. Golden butterscotch pudding cake glowed like sunlight on a winter morning. When baked, it formed its own sauce, the top becoming soft sponge, while the bottom turned into molten butterscotch. The smell filled kitchens with the scent of caramel and butter, rich yet humble. It was the perfect dessert for cold evenings when family gathered close. Mothers made it in glass baking dishes, pouring hot water around the pan like a quiet ritual. The result was a dessert that looked plain, but tasted like magic. It was sweet without being showy, nostalgic even in its time. Kids would scrape their spoons to reach the warm pudding at the bottom, while parents savored the golden crust on top. It was food for togetherness, not meant for perfection, but for warmth. The 1970s made convenience king, yet this dish still demanded patience, and that was its secret charm. A single scoop brought comfort deeper than sugar could explain, a reminder that joy sometimes hides in the simplest of layers. Cheeseburger pie turned the beloved American hamburger into a casserole that could feed entire classrooms from a single pan. Ground beef was browned with onions and seasoned with salt, pepper, and Worcestershire sauce, then spread across the bottom of baking dishes. A simple batter made from eggs, milk, flour, and baking powder was poured over the meat layer, creating a soft bread-like topping as it baked. Sliced American cheese was layered on top during the final minutes of baking, melting into a golden blanket that tied everything together. The result was somewhere between a burger, a biscuit, and a pot pie, satisfying multiple cravings simultaneously. Cafeteria ladies loved this recipe because it required no individual assembly and could be sliced into perfect portions. Students loved it because it delivered all the flavors they craved from cheeseburgers without the mess. Cheeseburger pie represented the creative problem-solving that defined school cafeteria cooking. Tomato aspic with shrimp garnish might be the ultimate example of how far gelatin molds could be pushed during the 1970s. Housewives would take tomato juice, mix it with unflavored gelatin, and let it set in ornate molds until it became a firm, jiggling centerpiece. On top of that shimmering red dome, cold shrimp would be arranged in neat patterns, often crowned with parsley for decoration. The dish was tangy, savory, and oddly refreshing, though the texture caught some people off guard. It was served cold as a side or appetizer, sometimes sliced into wedges like a cake. For potlucks and luncheons, tomato aspic stood out on the table because it looked unusual and sophisticated. It was the kind of dish that showed effort and creativity, even if guests approached it with caution. In an era that loved experimentation with molds, this savory gelatin became a conversation starter as much as a food. Though long gone from modern tables, it represents the quirky inventiveness of 1970s kitchens. Danish go-rounds and Danish rings were something that pretty much became the status quo of the average working-class American deep into the 70s. The idea here was to flood supermarkets and bakeries with these, making them as accessible as possible because, hey, you can't sell it if it's not easy to get, right? The next part was to make it a sugar rush. What do you think a population that's just been thrust back into the workforce needs the most when people find themselves coming back home? Something sweet. 9 times out of 10, that usually does the trick. The next trick was to mass produce and market it, and oh boy, did they live up to the definition of the word mass. Danish go-rounds were something that were introduced as a toaster pastry by brands like Kellogg's, initially being shown off as just a flaky pastry that had a lot of fruit fillings. It was supposed to give you the flavor of a Danish pastry but with all the ease of a Pop-Tart, and honestly, they may have marketed it too well. By the 80s, this was all people were buying for their lunch breaks. Cheese and grape kebabs turned the humble fruit and cheese plate into a playful finger food that perfectly fit the fun-loving vibe of the 1970s. Sharp cheddar cubes alternated with seedless grapes on small wooden picks, creating cheerful patterns of gold and purple. The sweet burst of the grape balanced the salty richness of the cheese, making each bite a perfect contrast of flavors. Assembly was quick and required no more than a cutting board and a few minutes of threading. These kebabs looked impressive on buffet tables, catching the light like tiny jewels and inviting guests to grab one without hesitation. They were ideal for backyard parties, school events, or casual evenings when friends dropped by unexpectedly. Hosts loved that the recipe was inexpensive yet eye-catching, and children enjoyed helping assemble the colorful skewers. With no need for heating or seasoning, they proved that true crowd pleasers could be prepared in less time than it took to pour a drink. Cheese and grape kebabs remain a charming reminder of a decade that embraced bold simplicity and knew how to turn the ordinary into something delightful. Snowflake meringues were light as whispers and bright as stars. Egg whites whipped into glossy peaks, sugar added slowly until the mixture shone like glass. Piped into delicate shapes and baked low and slow, they emerged crisp, airy, and fragile enough to crumble with a touch. Each one sparkled with sugar or edible glitter, catching the light like frost on windows. They were the jewels of the dessert table, dainty, ethereal, and proudly homemade. Children watched in awe as trays of them cooled, too beautiful to eat, yet too tempting to resist. Snowflake meringues carried the elegance of old-fashioned baking into the modern 1970s kitchen. They were proof that not all desserts needed butter or flour to feel complete. Light as they were, they left an impression, a fleeting sweetness that melted like the first snow of winter. Bread pudding with vanilla sauce was the dessert that transformed day-old bread into something magical through patient baking and proper technique. Cubed bread was soaked in a mixture of eggs, milk, sugar, and vanilla until every piece absorbed the custard, then poured into greased pans and baked slowly. During baking, the top pieces of bread turned golden and slightly crispy, while the interior became soft and custardy. Warm vanilla sauce made from butter, sugar, and milk was ladled over each portion, pooling in the crevices and adding richness. Students who initially resisted the unglamorous appearance were converted after tasting the creamy sweetness within. Cafeteria bakers added raisins, cinnamon, or nutmeg to their versions, creating signature recipes passed down through decades. The dessert exemplified waste-nothing philosophy, using bread that would otherwise be discarded. Bread pudding taught students that humble ingredients prepared with skill could become extraordinary desserts. Cabbage slaw with sunflower seeds was a crunchy twist on the classic coleslaw, giving it a slightly nutty bite that made it memorable. Shredded cabbage was tossed with carrots and sometimes raisins, then mixed with mayonnaise or vinegar dressing. Sunflower seeds were sprinkled in, adding both texture and a surprising depth of flavor. This variation became popular because it felt fresh and wholesome, fitting the health-focused trends creeping into the 1970s. It was also affordable, since cabbage was inexpensive and sunflower seeds were widely available in bulk. Families loved it because it paired well with grilled meats, baked chicken, or sandwiches, and it held up well at picnics. It was light but filling, crunchy but creamy, and versatile enough for all kinds of gatherings. Children often picked at the seeds while parents appreciated the nutritional value. Though it has almost vanished from modern tables, cabbage slaw with sunflower seeds once stood proudly as a reflection of the era's push toward foods that felt both homemade and just a little different. Rice and bean burritos were a simple, filling meal that stretched inexpensive ingredients like rice and beans into a warm, portable wrap. Popular in the 1970s for budget-conscious families, these burritos combined basic pantry staples to create a dish that was hearty and easy to prepare. Cooking rice and beans together or separately, then wrapping them in a tortilla or flatbread, allowed people to make a meal that was satisfying without expensive proteins or fresh produce. Seasonings such as chili powder, garlic, or onions could be added to enhance flavor, but even plain versions provided plenty of energy and nutrition. The burrito format made this dish convenient for packed lunches, quick dinners, or even communal gatherings where food needed to feed many on a small budget. This dish exemplified the 1970s spirit of stretching food resources creatively and making simple ingredients feel special with a bit of ingenuity. Rice and bean burritos were a tasty way to turn humble staples into a memorable meal. Shepherd's pie, or at one point also known as cottage pie when it would be made with beef, was a way for working-class homes to not let a single thing go to waste. Hey, if they can eat neck bones in the name of reducing wastage, shepherd's pie is a stone's throw away from that, really. A lot of the time in these homes, the dinners or lunches that would be cooked would be one-pot meals. Large stews, broths, casseroles, meatloafs, pastas, things like that. Whatever they could afford had to be made with care and caution. You couldn't use too much. At the same time, you also had to feed like 4 or 5 hungry mouths, at least 3 of them being under 14. That meant that home chefs had a bad case of leftovers and were frequently dealing with what to do with food from yesterday that was about to spoil. This shepherd's pie was one of the most common ways for people to repurpose yesterday's dinner. The leftover meat would work as the base, and any kind of roast beef, meatloaf, or ground beef would work. Next, people would throw in vegetables and gravy, top it with some mashed potatoes, and bake it until it was just the right color. Lots of people would just eat it right out of the pan, but either way, this was a great idea to make sure nothing at all went to waste, and you got all your money's worth for your groceries. Sitting down and sharing a meal. Zucchini and cheese bake was the sneaky vegetable casserole that showed up everywhere during the 1970s garden boom, back when folks were growing zucchinis the size of baseball bats and scrambling for recipes to use them up. You would shred fresh zucchini, mix it with eggs, shredded cheese, and breadcrumbs, and bake until it turned into a golden, bubbly dish that somehow got even the pickiest eaters to eat their veggies. This casserole was a lifesaver during peak garden season when you could not give zucchini away fast enough. It popped up in community cookbooks, gardening magazines, and handwritten recipe cards swapped over backyard fences. Some folks added herbs or even ground beef to make it heartier, but most kept it simple and cheesy. Over the years, as backyard gardens shrank and prepackaged veggies took over, zucchini bakes like this quietly slipped off most dinner tables. But for the families who remember pulling this cheesy, veggie-packed casserole out of the oven, it brings back memories of homemade meals. Cream cheese cucumber bites brought a refreshing sophistication to 1970s snack tables with very little effort required. Cool cucumber rounds were sliced into even coins, their pale green surfaces ready to hold a dollop of creamy, herb-filled cheese. The spread was whipped from softened cream cheese mixed with fresh dill, chives, and a splash of lemon juice, creating a bright flavor that woke up the palate. A quick twist of black pepper added a gentle bite, while a few tiny herb leaves on top turned each piece into a miniature work of art. Hosts loved how the crisp cucumber provided a natural serving vessel, keeping everything neat and easy to pick up. Guests enjoyed the contrast of crunch and smoothness and the way the herbs cut through the richness of the cheese. Preparation took only minutes, yet the result looked like something from a high-end hors d'oeuvre tray. In an era when light appetizers were starting to share space with heavier fare, these bites stood out as a clean, modern option that captured the decade's growing love for fresh flavors and elegant simplicity in every 5-minute creation. Devonshire pumpkin cream cheese bars were the sweet smell of autumn baked into a pan. Every layer told a story. The spiced pumpkin batter, warm with cinnamon and nutmeg, swirled through with ribbons of cream cheese that melted into smooth perfection. These bars came from the era of baking mixes, when convenience met creativity, and home cooks discovered that a box of cake mix could still feel homemade. They cooled on countertops while the house filled with the scent of Thanksgiving and nostalgia. The cream cheese added richness to every bite, the pumpkin gave warmth, and the blend felt like the comfort of a sweater you never wanted to take off. They were cut into squares, shared at church gatherings, and tucked into holiday tins with wax paper folded between them. For a generation that valued thrift and taste in equal measure, these bars struck gold. Each piece held just enough spice to make winter feel close, and just enough sweetness to make you stay a little longer at the table. Pumpkin cream cheese bars weren't just a dessert. They were the quiet hum of a decade that knew how to make joy from a baking pan. Chicken-fried steak patties brought Southern comfort food traditions into school cafeterias across the country during the decade. Thin beef patties were dredged in seasoned flour, dipped in egg wash, and coated again before being fried until golden brown and crispy. The double coating created a substantial crust that shattered satisfyingly when cut with the side of a fork. White pepper gravy made from pan drippings, flour, and milk was ladled generously over each patty, transforming them into something approaching restaurant quality. Students learned to pour gravy over their mashed potatoes as well, creating a unified plate of comfort. The patties arrived pre-formed and frozen, making preparation manageable for cafeteria staff who simply needed to bread and fry them fresh. Even children who claimed to dislike beef often made exceptions for chicken-fried steak, won over by the crispy coating and creamy gravy. This dish proved that proper technique could elevate humble ingredients into something genuinely special. Cauliflower au gratin was a side dish that brought comfort and richness to 1970s dinner tables. Cauliflower florets were steamed until tender, then smothered in a cream sauce heavy with cheese and baked beneath a topping of breadcrumbs. The result was a bubbling golden dish that gave the plain vegetable an entirely new identity. Families enjoyed it as a complement to roasts, chicken, or even pork chops because it added both substance and flavor. Housewives liked it because it could be assembled ahead and baked when needed, making it ideal for busy schedules. It was creamy, hearty, and indulgent, fitting perfectly into the casserole craze of the time. Children who might have resisted cauliflower on its own often enjoyed it baked under the cheese and crumb topping. Cauliflower au gratin proved that vegetables did not have to be boring, and that with enough butter and cheese they could become centerpieces of meals. Though it feels old-fashioned today, it once represented the height of comfort cooking in the 1970s. Vegetable frittata with leftover veggies was a protein-packed casserole that rescued forgotten vegetables from the fridge, turning them into a hearty, affordable meal. Eggs, beaten and poured over diced carrots, peppers, onions, or greens, were baked until firm, creating a simple yet nourishing dish. This recipe was ideal for 1970s families who needed to make the most out of every grocery trip, using what was on hand rather than buying new ingredients. The frittata was filling enough to serve as a main dish and portable enough to be eaten cold for lunches or picnics. Its flexibility made it popular. Any combination of leftover vegetables could be tossed in without worrying about exact measurements. Baking the dish allowed the eggs to bind everything together, creating a warm, comforting meal that was easy on the wallet. Vegetable frittata highlighted the thrift and creativity of cooking during tough economic times while remaining delicious and satisfying. Powdered mashed potatoes were even better. They were the star of the entire show. The show, by the way, is the rise and takeover of convenience food. What was it taking over? Grocery store chains across the country? Pantries across every neighborhood you've ever lived in? Entire city blocks and urban centers are becoming reliant on cans of processed foods. At the very top of all that, you had powdered mashed potatoes. These were actually something that were originally developed with nothing but practicality in mind. It makes sense when you realize they were made for military rations and people who were the target of food aid programs. They became a staple later on after the formula was adopted by a couple of companies like Idahoan, Betty Crocker, and Hungry Jack. Let's be real, potatoes are wonderful, but we all only love the end product. The peeling, the boiling, the shaping, all of that? No one likes it. It's long, it's annoying, and it makes your hands the wrong kind of sticky. This, though, these instant mashed potatoes you just had to rehydrate with some water and milk, season according to your taste, and then throw in whatever add-ons you wanted. Whether that was cheese, sour cream, canned vegetables, or something more, that was up to you. Either way, this was the quickest and easiest way to have potatoes in all of history at the time of its inception, and people definitely took all the advantage they could out of it. Cornbread dressing casserole, in its essence, is Thanksgiving, all wrapped up in a serving dish, and as far as I'm concerned, that's the essence of comfort food. Here's a recipe that throws out every conventional rule on stuffing: bake cornbread with sausage, celery, and lots of chopped herbs. And this casserole is terrific, moist and savory. My grandma always said the secret was just a bit more sage and butter, and who am I to disagree? This casserole is exactly the side dish that becomes the star in the spotlight. Well, it almost feels like it is made of cornbread, but it's even tastier than that bread. Oh, don't get the idea that it's reserved for Thanksgiving alone. Down south, we serve this anytime we want comfort food, or, let's be honest, a heavy meal. Sausage is smoky and salty, which complements with sweet cornbread to create a beautiful union in the flavor profile. It is the kind of casserole that you could take on its own, or have it alongside anything in the world. Trust me, once you try cornbread dressing casserole, regular stuffing won't ever be enough. It's like a warm, herby hug in every bite. Ambrosia fruit salad was a dish that turned ordinary canned goods into something that felt downright festive. Open a can of mandarin oranges, a can of pineapple tidbits, and a jar of bright red cherries. Then drain and fold them gently into a bowl of fluffy whipped topping. Add a handful of miniature marshmallows and a sprinkle of sweetened coconut flakes, and you had a creamy, dreamy salad that looked like a dessert and tasted like a celebration. The name alone promised a taste of something heavenly, and in the 1970s, this easy recipe became a staple at every picnic, church supper, and family reunion. It required no cooking and very little effort, yet it brought a sense of indulgence that belied its humble ingredients. Parents loved how quickly it came together while children clamored for the soft marshmallows and bursts of fruit. It was equally welcome at a summer barbecue or a winter holiday table, always ready to delight with its pastel colors and gentle sweetness. In an era when convenience met creativity, Ambrosia proved that a can opener and a mixing spoon were all you needed to create a dish that everyone would remember long after the party ended. Chocolate rum pudding cups were the quiet indulgence of grown-up holidays. Instant chocolate pudding, rich and silky, met a splash of rum extract or, for the brave, the real thing. Topped with whipped cream and shaved chocolate, it felt elegant in its simplicity, proof that luxury could be spooned from a glass. These little desserts appeared at dinner parties and midnight gatherings, served in small cups that looked as stylish as they were easy. The flavor was smooth with just enough warmth to feel sophisticated, a step above childhood chocolate pudding, yet still comforting. In dimly lit rooms filled with laughter and record players humming, pudding cups became a moment of pause, soft, sweet, and quietly daring. They carried the flavor of the decade, modern, a little indulgent, but never complicated. Chocolate rum pudding cups reminded people that even in a fast-changing world, pleasure could be instant and timeless at once. Tater-tot casserole combined convenience foods into something greater than the sum of its parts during the frozen food revolution. Ground beef was browned with onions and seasoned simply, then spread across the bottom of hotel pans before being covered with cream of mushroom soup straight from industrial-sized cans. Frozen tater tots were arranged in neat rows across the top, creating a uniform surface that baked to golden crispness while the meat mixture bubbled beneath. The tots absorbed some of the creamy sauce while maintaining their crunch, creating textural contrast in every bite. Students loved the familiar flavors combined in an unexpected format that felt both comforting and novel. The recipe required minimal skill and could be assembled in advance, making it perfect for busy cafeteria schedules. Tater-tot casserole represented the era's embrace of convenience products while still delivering genuine satisfaction. Mock crab salad was the thrifty answer for families who wanted the sophistication of seafood without paying seafood prices. The recipe appeared often in budget cookbooks, calling for shredded vegetables like cabbage or zucchini mixed with mayonnaise and seasoning to mimic the look and texture of crab. A splash of vinegar or lemon juice added tang, while paprika or celery seed provided color and flavor. Served chilled, it was spooned onto lettuce leaves or stuffed into tomatoes, making it look fancier than it really was. Housewives loved it because it gave the illusion of serving something indulgent while costing only pennies. It worked well as a potluck dish since it could be prepared in large batches and kept cool until serving time. For families, it was a playful way to bring variety to the table when fish was out of reach. Though it has mostly disappeared today, mock crab salad captures the spirit of resourceful 1970s cooking, where appearance and ingenuity counted for just as much as actual ingredients. Cabbage and potato pancakes brought together two affordable staples into a crispy, filling dish that could feed a family on a shoestring budget. Shredded cabbage and grated potatoes were mixed with simple binders and fried until golden brown, creating savory cakes that were perfect for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. This recipe made the most of inexpensive ingredients by turning them into something satisfying and easy to prepare. The pancakes offered a delightful crunch on the outside and a soft, warm center, making each bite comforting and hearty. During the 1970s, when groceries were carefully budgeted, this dish was a favorite for stretching limited supplies without sacrificing flavor. It was often served with a dollop of sour cream or ketchup to add a little zing. The recipe also allowed for flexibility, with whatever spices or leftover vegetables handy mixed in. Cabbage and potato pancakes stood as a testament to the resourcefulness of families making every ingredient count. So we're going to start off nice and small with an eloquent classic that I'm sure you're all far too familiar with by now. Beans and toast is something that goes back to the deeply ingrained roots of any country. But that couldn't ring any more true for our dearly beloved United States. See, especially in the South, and especially in the 70s, if you had beans on toast instead of, let's say, hash browns and eggs or pancakes and maple syrup, you were giving away a few things. You were telling others that flour was short for you, that you couldn't afford to waste too much sugar, that you didn't have a lot of dairy to work with, and that you probably didn't make anything above an honest day's pay. Sound a bit too judgmental? I'd say modern society has stomped them in that field, but yeah, it's a dog's life. Beans and toast not only became a dead giveaway about someone's economic status, they also became a status symbol as a whole for the working class. You'll hear all sorts of laborers and field workers recounting days where they toiled away with only some pinto beans and toast fueling them. You might have never. This one is definitely something that did not sit well with some, while it was something being served at every dinner for others. The tuna noodle casserole was a divider, a controversy raiser, if you will, and one that set people into arguments across every forum, thread, and tweet out there. Some people said that America was too stuck in the brief moments where it hit culinary gold and needed to experiment more if it wanted to recreate those highs. Others said there was no need of messing up a dish that worked fine on its own, always has, and already has 100 different versions. So what you had was something you had to ask your friends if they were okay with, or else you were ordering out. When you see it from that angle, tuna noodle casseroles could never have really lasted too long. Mini pizzas on English muffins became an instant family favorite because they delivered the flavor of a pizzeria without a delivery phone call or a long wait. Pre-toasted muffin halves provided a sturdy base that crisped beautifully under a broiler. A spoonful of jarred tomato sauce spread across each half formed the quick foundation, followed by a generous sprinkle of shredded mozzarella and any toppings on hand, from sliced mushrooms to tiny pepperoni rounds. A few minutes under the heat and the cheese bubbled into golden perfection, while the muffins stayed just firm enough to hold their shape. Children loved building their own combinations, turning dinner into a playful activity that required no sharp knives or complex cooking skills. Parents appreciated how the recipe used pantry staples and could be ready faster than a frozen pizza ever could. Served as an after-school snack, a casual party treat, or a late-night bite, these mini pizzas proved that the fun of homemade comfort food could be captured in well under 5 minutes of real kitchen work. Cheese zombies were the mysterious bread pockets that appeared under different names in cafeterias across America throughout the decade. Soft bread dough was wrapped around American cheese slices, sealed at the edges, and baked until golden brown and puffy. When students bit through the tender crust, melted cheese stretched in long strings that required careful navigation to avoid dripping onto shirts. The name varied by region, with some schools calling them cheese pockets or cheesy bread, but the concept remained consistent. These handheld treats required no utensils and could be eaten while walking to recess, making them popular with children who wanted to maximize playground time. Cafeteria workers could prepare hundreds in advance, freezing unbaked zombies for later use when schedules demanded quick solutions. The combination of soft bread and gooey cheese created a textural experience that students remembered decades later. Cheese zombies proved that simple combinations executed well could achieve legendary status in lunch. Rum raisin ice cream pie was the dessert of quiet indulgence. Vanilla ice cream softened and folded around raisins soaked in dark rum until plump and fragrant. The mixture was poured into a cookie crust and frozen again until smooth as silk. Every slice felt cool, creamy, and just daring enough to feel grown up. The scent of rum filled the kitchen, mingling with laughter and low music from another room. It was the kind of dessert served after the children went to bed, a secret holiday pleasure for adults. Topped with a drizzle of caramel or chocolate, it looked luxurious, but came together with ease. Its flavor, sweet, spiced, and a little bold, carried a memory of warmth even when frozen. Rum raisin ice cream pie was the spirit of the decade, a little glamorous, a little rebellious, and completely unforgettable. French dressing mold was one of the more daring uses of gelatin during the decade, turning salad dressing into a solid side dish. Housewives would combine French dressing with unflavored gelatin, then fold in vegetables like celery, olives, or green peppers before letting it set in ornate molds. The result was a wobbly, tangy creation that looked almost too strange to eat, but always sparked conversation. Served sliced, it offered bright color and unusual texture alongside heavier mains. Some versions included hard-boiled eggs for extra substance. French dressing mold reflected the obsession with molds that swept through kitchens at the time, where anything could be transformed into a shimmering side. It was thrifty, it was experimental, and it carried the charm of novelty. Though it is hard to imagine today, guests once accepted it as part of the playful spread. French dressing mold may not have aged well, but it remains a clear reminder of the fearless culinary creativity of the 1970s. Sweet potato hash was a flavorful, inexpensive side or breakfast dish made by frying diced sweet potatoes with onions, creating a sweet and savory combination loved in many American kitchens during the 1970s. Sweet potatoes were a nutritious, affordable staple that could be purchased in bulk and stored easily, making them perfect for stretching limited food budgets. When fried with onions in a bit of oil or fat, the sweet potatoes caramelized slightly, developing a crispy exterior while staying tender inside. This hash was a satisfying way to add warmth and flavor to simple meals and was often served alongside eggs or meat substitutes. The dish's balance of sweetness and savoriness made it appealing to a wide range of tastes, and its colorful appearance brightened up the plate. Sweet potato hash reflected the era's appreciation for practical, tasty dishes that could be prepared quickly and with minimal expense. It was a true comfort food for families looking to enjoy good food without overspending. So, the next thing we have on our list is potato pancakes. This is as much of a godsend as soy sauce was, really. The thing about potatoes is, you don't even know how useful they are until a situation comes knocking on your door and you find out potatoes are your only weapon. What was once a starchy present from Mother Earth that you could only associate with curly fries and vanilla milkshakes can actually be a world of flavor unto itself. A lot of common community cookbooks, recipes, and magazines prove that, but nothing showcases that better, in my opinion, than the humble potato pancake. This was not only a delicious alternative, but it was also a smart response to the rising difficulties that plagued the 20th century. A country on the brink of ruin, beaten and battered by several tragedies, beset by financial instability, shorter paychecks, and rising costs. Potatoes weren't just something you could buy for cheap and all that mess, they were something you could grow for free. In the 70s, basic farming knowledge still was something that people had. Potato pancakes were one of the ways people who had nothing to spare for breakfast managed one, and they could have done a lot worse. Watergate salad arrived with a mysterious name and a playful green color that fascinated every 1970s household. Pistachio pudding mix gave it that soft mint hue, while crushed pineapple added a tropical sweetness that made each spoonful refreshing. Whipped topping folded everything into a cloud-like texture, and miniature marshmallows added chewy little surprises with every bite. Some families tossed in chopped pecans for a gentle crunch, while others kept it smooth and creamy depending on what they had in the pantry. The entire recipe could be finished before the evening news even began, making it a hit for last-minute dessert needs or potluck contributions that required no stress. Children were drawn to the bright color, while adults appreciated the subtle, nutty flavor that set it apart from ordinary fruit salads and other quick sweets. Despite the political scandal sharing its name, Watergate salad kept its reputation as a cheerful treat for gatherings of all kinds and sizes. It required no stove, no oven, and no waiting, only a mixing bowl and a quick stir from start to finish. In less than 5 minutes, you could create something that looked whimsical and tasted indulgent, proving that the decade valued both speed and fun with a touch of flair. Cherry Snowball cookies looked like little gifts dusted in sugar and surprise. Beneath their powdery white coating hid a secret, a single bright red maraschino cherry glowing in the center. Each bite revealed that pop of color against the pale, buttery dough, a tiny burst of sweetness inside something so simple. They were rolled by hand, baked just long enough to stay soft, then showered in powdered sugar until they looked like winter itself. Children loved them because they felt like magic, and adults loved them because they tasted like home. These cookies were part of the 1970s charm. Festive, easy, and endlessly cheerful. They appeared on every Christmas platter beside fudge squares and candied nuts, and no plate felt complete without them. Making them was almost as fun as eating them, sticky fingers and all. Cherry Snowballs weren't extravagant, but they didn't need to be. They were joy wrapped in sweetness, proof that the simplest surprises are sometimes the most beautiful. Porcupine meatballs earned their name from the rice mixed into ground beef that poked through the surface like tiny quills after baking. Cafeteria ladies mixed ground beef with uncooked rice, minced onion, salt, and pepper, then formed them into balls and smothered them in tomato sauce before baking. The magic happened as the rice absorbed tomato juices and expanded, creating meatballs that were moist and tender while stretching the meat budget further than any administrator expected. Schools loved this recipe because rice was cheap and 1 pound of ground beef could feed twice as many students. Children lined up eagerly because the tomato sauce turned sweet and sticky during the long bake, coating each meatball in glossy red sauce that tasted like comfort. These weren't gourmet creations, but they were honest food made with care by women who understood that hungry children needed substance. Porcupine meatballs represented cafeteria ingenuity at its finest. Lima Bean Supreme was a side dish that took a humble legume and dressed it up for special occasions. Lima beans were simmered until tender, then folded into a creamy sauce often flavored with butter, milk, and a touch of nutmeg. The mixture was poured into a baking dish, topped with breadcrumbs, and baked until golden and bubbling. It transformed the often overlooked lima bean into something rich and comforting, with a texture that appealed even to those who usually avoided them. Housewives appreciated it because it was economical, yet felt dressed up enough to bring to potlucks or serve at Sunday dinners. Children were coaxed into eating their vegetables when Lima Bean Supreme appeared because the creamy sauce softened the flavors and made it more approachable. It was one of those recipes that fit perfectly into the casserole culture of the 1970s, blending thrift with a little indulgence. Today it is hard to find, but it once stood as proof that even the plainest vegetables could be made into something memorable. Creamed spinach on toast was a simple way to enjoy greens without splurging on fresh produce or fancy sides. Spinach was cooked down into a silky, creamy sauce made from basic pantry ingredients like milk, butter, and flour, then spooned generously over slices of toasted bread for a meal that was both comforting and frugal. In the 1970s, when fresh vegetables could be expensive or scarce, this dish provided a way to sneak in some nutrition without fuss or cost. The creamy texture disguised the humble nature of the spinach, making it more appealing to picky eaters or anyone craving warmth on a chilly night. Serving it on toast also added a satisfying crunch and helped stretch the meal further. It was a favorite for those seeking comfort food that did not require elaborate preparation or exotic ingredients. This dish brought a touch of elegance to an otherwise simple ingredient and reminded many of home-cooked meals filled with warmth and love, even on the tightest budgets. Now, if you're dealing with imitating a whole fruit pie, you might need some actual experience in the kitchen. Potted meat sandwiches, on the other hand, were something even your kid could make. It's about as complicated as a peanut butter sandwich, really. See, we're so used to them now, but cans in general were a marvel. They were a way to get massive amounts of food out to people that was easy to carry and lasted long. Potted meat was a part of that in the 70s. It was this really heavily processed meat that came for pretty cheap in a can. Think stuff like Libby's or Underwood. Once you had a can of this, all you needed was your favorite sauce, toppings if you had any, and 2 slices of bread. You could even have this cold, really. The thing about recipes like mock apple pies is that they're kind of restricted entirely to people with access to an oven. For a lot of the working class, that just wasn't happening. Potted meat was something anyone could enjoy, regardless of what they had in the kitchen. All you needed was the can and bread. Hey, if you had some sausage bits, bacon, olives, or anything at all to spare, even better. In places like the South, not only was it perfect for lunch for school kids, giving parents an accessible and affordable everyday option, but it was also something that the parents themselves relied on. Loads of factory and construction workers would often rely on sandwiches like these to get by during the long days. It became a real thing in the South, since potted meat was already a massive thing back there already. Tamales are a labor of love, but thanks to Grandma, this tamale pie was a much easier way to enjoy the flavors. This casserole caught on like fire in the early 20th century, particularly in the Southwest, where Mexican influence was strong. Just like most casseroles on the list, this one-dish wonder was also a creation of the Depression era. Some versions of this pie started out as a way to use up leftovers, such as bits of meat, vegetables, and even leftover chili. But hey, no one complained because the end result was a delicious dinner. Many families have an heirloom recipe for this casserole passed down from generation to generation. So if this casserole brings back memories from your childhood, it might be time to give Grandma a call. She could be holding on to a secret recipe that she's finally ready to pass down to you. Crab dip earned its place on every 1970s buffet because it delivered rich seafood flavor with astonishing speed. A can of lump crab meat was drained and gently folded into softened cream cheese mixed with a splash of lemon juice, a shake of hot sauce, and a touch of Worcestershire for depth. Some hosts added a pinch of fresh dill or parsley for color, but the core recipe stayed wonderfully simple. The dip could be served cold with crackers and vegetable sticks or warmed briefly for a more indulgent spread. Either way, it offered the taste of a seaside restaurant without the cost or the wait. Guests loved the creamy texture and the subtle sweetness of real crab, while hosts appreciated that it could be made moments before a party and still impress a crowd. In a decade where convenience foods ruled but flavor remained king, quick crab dip stood out as a 5-minute marvel that felt like a luxury. It proved that a well-stocked pantry and a little creativity could bring the ocean to any suburban kitchen with almost no effort at all. Chocolate peppermint roll was the showstopper of every holiday dessert table. A light sponge cake baked flat and rolled with a creamy peppermint filling, it looked like something from a glossy 1970s magazine ad. The swirl inside revealed its story, a perfect balance of rich chocolate and cool mint, made to impress, but easy to love. The aroma filled kitchens with festive warmth, the kind that made people linger just a little longer near the oven. Cooks dusted the top with powdered sugar or drizzled thin ribbons of chocolate glaze for that final elegant touch. It was the dessert that made guests pause before cutting, admiring the spiral as if it were art. Making it was a test of care. The cake had to be rolled while warm, the filling spread with confidence. When sliced, it held its shape beautifully, soft, light, and filled with joy. For homemakers of the 70s, it was proof that creativity and precision could coexist. Served chilled, it was as refreshing as it was decadent. One bite felt like winter wrapped in sweetness, cool, rich, and entirely unforgettable. Rectangular school pizza became the iconic lunch that defined cafeteria culture throughout the decade. Unlike round pizzeria pies, these pizzas were baked on massive sheet pans and cut into perfect squares that fit neatly onto compartmentalized lunch trays. The crust was thick, doughy, and slightly chewy, with a golden bottom from being baked directly on greased aluminum. Cafeteria workers spread tomato sauce from industrial cans across the dough, then covered it with mozzarella and commodity cheese that turned bubbly and brown in commercial ovens. The cheese had a particular stretchiness that regular pizza couldn't match, pulling into long strings when students bit into their squares. Friday Pizza Day was sacred, and children who forgot their lunch money suffered genuine disappointment. The recipe was simple, but execution required timing and institutional knowledge passed between cafeteria veterans. Rectangular school pizza created its own category of comfort that generations still remember fondly. Cold beet borscht cups brought an unusual European influence into American kitchens of the 1970s. Beets were boiled, chilled, and pureed into a cold soup flavored with vinegar, dill, and sometimes sour cream. Instead of serving it in bowls, housewives poured it into small cups, offering it as a quirky side or appetizer. The vibrant magenta color made it striking, and its refreshing taste stood out at summer gatherings. While not everyone embraced its earthy flavor, those who did found it invigorating, especially when paired with bread or crackers. Cold beet borscht cups reflected the era's willingness to experiment with international dishes, even if they seemed unusual on American tables. They were considered refined in some circles, a nod to cosmopolitan tastes during a decade of culinary curiosity. For families, they offered variety and a sense of something different from the usual casseroles and gelatin salads. Today, they seem nearly forgotten, but they once represented the adventurous spirit of 1970s kitchens. Peanut butter and oat bars were a homemade, no-fuss snack that combined simple pantry ingredients like rolled oats and peanut butter into a filling and affordable treat. These bars were perfect for busy families and kids needing something to keep hunger at bay between meals without costing a fortune. Mixing just a few ingredients into a pan, then baking or chilling them into bars, made for an easy and portable snack. Peanut butter provided a rich, satisfying flavor and a good dose of protein, while oats added chewiness and fiber. Sweeteners like honey or sugar could be adjusted according to taste and budget, making this recipe highly customizable. During the 1970s, when packaged snacks were not always affordable or accessible, these bars offered a wholesome alternative that lasted well and could be made in large batches to feed many. They were great for school lunches, picnics, or a quick energy boost after work. Peanut butter and oat bars combined simplicity and nutrition, showcasing the era's practical approach to homemade foods. I bet the last thing you'll ever think of is somebody making apple pie out of Ritz crackers. The 1970s were full of surprises, and this dish is as creative as it is unusual. So, the mock apple pie basically was a dish that got popular in the Depression. People had no supplies to make any usual dessert with. What little they did have, they would conserve as much as they could. Still, on the odd occasion or two, people would feel the need for something sweet, and in times like those, Ritz crackers were a big help. Lots of people would actually crumble and layer the crackers together to mimic the texture and feel of apple slices. As for the taste, a dense mix of cinnamon, sugar, and water along with cream of tartar would have to be boiled. Imagine the stuff you can do with so little. I don't find any use for sugar outside of my morning coffee, really. It doesn't end there, though. Last comes some lemon juice and spices, which really add to the bit here, giving it a fruity vibe. The rest is just your typical pie baking, but it's insane that people were able to make mock recipes that actually came so close to the real thing. While no one really remembers it today, it's a testament to America's skill in the kitchen. Instant French onion dip became the undisputed king of 1970s snack tables because it required almost no effort and tasted like you had been cooking all afternoon for guests. A tub of cool sour cream met a packet of dry onion soup mix in a simple mixing bowl, and within seconds, the dip was ready to enjoy. The dehydrated onions softened just enough to release a sweet, savory flavor that paired perfectly with crisp potato chips or fresh vegetable sticks for a balanced bite. This recipe fit the decade's fascination with convenience foods while still delivering a homemade feel that impressed friends and neighbors at casual gatherings. It was the go-to choice for game nights, backyard barbecues, and any gathering where people wanted to snack without interruption or wait for something to bake. Hosts appreciated that it could be made in advance or moments before guests arrived, and it never failed to disappear before the evening was over. No oven, no stove, not even a cutting board was required, just a quick stir, and it was complete. The creamy texture and bold flavor made it an instant classic that generations still remember fondly today, proof that simple ideas often last the longest. Peanut butter haystacks were the definition of 1970s kitchen magic. No baking, no measuring fuss, just pure fun in a bowl. A handful of crunchy chow mein noodles, a spoonful of peanut butter, and melted butterscotch chips came together into golden, tangled clusters. They sat on wax paper like tiny sculptures, imperfect yet irresistible. Each bite was salty, sweet, and just the right kind of messy. Haystacks were the dessert you made when company called unexpectedly, or when kids wanted something to help with in the kitchen. They were bite-sized nostalgia, the perfect blend of simplicity and delight. People loved them because they looked homemade but felt inventive, the hallmark of the 1970s sweet tooth. Whether packed in lunchboxes or piled high on Christmas trays, haystacks carried the same message: that joy did not need precision, only warmth. Their crunch was unforgettable, their smell even more so. Peanut butter haystacks may have vanished from modern holidays, but they still live in memory, tangled up with laughter and gold. Turkey tetrazzini transformed Thanksgiving leftovers into a creamy casserole that students actually requested by name. Cubed turkey was folded into cooked spaghetti, along with sliced mushrooms and a rich sauce made from butter, flour, milk, and chicken broth. The mixture was poured into deep hotel pans, topped with Parmesan and breadcrumbs, then baked until golden and bubbling around the edges. The sauce became silky during baking, clinging to every strand of pasta and piece of turkey. What made this dish special was how it elevated ordinary ingredients into something almost elegant for a school cafeteria. The mushrooms added earthiness, the Parmesan contributed sharpness, and the breadcrumb topping provided textural contrast. November and December menus featured turkey tetrazzini regularly as schools worked through commodity turkey supplies. Children who typically avoided casseroles made exceptions for this one, scraping their trays clean. Turkey tetrazzini proved institutional cooking could achieve genuine deliciousness. Pickled watermelon rind was one of the most surprising side dishes of the decade, turning what many would throw away into something flavorful and refreshing. Housewives peeled the green outer skin, sliced the white rind, and simmered it in a brine of vinegar, sugar, and spices until it became tender and tangy. The result was a sweet-sour pickle that was served in relish trays or alongside meats. It was a way of practicing thrift while also creating a unique taste that stood out at gatherings. Families valued it because it stretched food further and prevented waste, while guests admired its novelty. Pickled watermelon rind reflected the ingenuity of making use of every part of seasonal produce. It brought brightness to heavy meals and was a talking point at tables where everyone expected the usual pickles. Though it has nearly disappeared today, it once stood proudly as a reminder of how resourcefulness and creativity could turn scraps into something memorable. Meatloaf muffins were a clever twist on traditional meatloaf, designed to stretch ground meat into multiple small servings, perfect for families on a budget in the 1970s. Instead of making one large loaf, cooks baked individual muffin-sized portions in a pan, allowing for quicker cooking times and easier portion control. These mini meatloaves often incorporated filler ingredients like breadcrumbs, oats, or grated vegetables to bulk out the meat and make it go further. This approach helped families manage meat shortages or rising prices while still enjoying a classic comfort food. Meatloaf muffins could be topped with a simple tomato-based glaze or ketchup for added flavor, giving each muffin a delicious, slightly caramelized finish. They were perfect for school lunches or dinners and could be easily reheated without drying out. The convenience and economy of meatloaf muffins made them a beloved staple in frugal 1970s kitchens, showing how a bit of creativity could transform modest ingredients into family favorites. So, the next thing we have on the list is Hunt's Snack Pack Pudding. This was something that people came up with in the 1960s, and slowly it became a staple of lunchboxes for kids who were born into working-class families. Most construction and factory jobs paid enough to keep the lights on, but beyond that, you couldn't really expect anything extravagant. Working-class homes back then didn't have any kind of refrigeration, and the ones that were living away from urban centers and hubs like New York had it even rough. At least those people had everything they needed a few streets away from them. In times like those, snack pack puddings were divine intervention, or they may as well have been. The appeal for children was insane. It was convenient, it was affordable, and the flavors were all classics like vanilla. It tasted an awful lot like Mom's own homemade pudding, which just made the whole thing come full circle as an affordable comfort food you could rely on. Prosciutto-wrapped melon balls were the picture of 1970s cocktail chic, a bite-sized combination of sweet and salty that looked far fancier than the effort required. Perfectly ripe cantaloupe or honeydew was scooped into neat spheres using a melon baller and then chilled until icy cold. Thin slices of prosciutto were draped around each piece of fruit, their silky texture hugging the juicy melon like a soft ribbon. A quick twist of freshly cracked black pepper or a delicate brush of olive oil added a touch of complexity without distracting from the natural flavors. Hosts loved this recipe because it offered a luxurious taste of Europe with almost no preparation, and guests marveled at how such simple ingredients could feel so elegant. These little jewels were as comfortable on a silver platter at a wedding reception as they were at a backyard summer gathering. The contrast of salty cured meat and sweet chilled fruit provided a memorable first bite that captured the decade's fascination with global flavors. Ready in moments and gone even faster, this disco-era party plate remains a symbol of effortless entertaining that defined the quick yet stylish food trends of the time. Corn pudding is a dish that may not have been as grand as the rest so far, but it was a simple DIY casserole that made your day. Corn pudding was made with stewed corn and thickening agents that helped give it a pudding or custard-like texture. However, it was not typically baked in a traditional casserole case. Instead, it had a custard dish that the pudding would go into and then be baked in. Now, down in the South, this was the food gospel. People just loved it all over, especially in less urban areas where corn was widely and daily consumed, particularly during times of economic uncertainty when households had to cut corners in the kitchen. Corn pudding was a cheap and easy-to-make casserole that was not too shabby. Nowadays, people like that have moved more to poaching local wildlife than taking Mother Nature's gifts, and as a result, corn pudding went extinct too. Maple pecan fudge was winter comfort-made candy. Smooth, creamy, and flecked with toasted pecans, it carried the warmth of both hearth and heart. The maple flavor ran deep, its sweetness rich without being heavy. It was a recipe passed quietly between generations, old-fashioned yet always welcome. People made it for gift boxes or for visitors who stopped by unannounced, offering small squares wrapped in wax paper. The texture was firm but melted slowly on the tongue, releasing notes of butter and caramel with each bite. Pecan halves added crunch, grounding the sweetness with a roasted bite. Across regions, from Vermont kitchens to southern parlors, it connected families through shared taste and shared effort. Maple pecan fudge was never extravagant, but it felt like luxury in times when joy came homemade. Every batch was a small act of love, stirred patiently and cooled carefully. And though it was made from pantry staples, it felt worthy of any celebration. Sweet, simple, and deeply nostalgic, it was proof that the best desserts didn't just please the palate, they stayed in the soul. Oatmeal cookies with raisins were the chewy treats that cafeteria bakers produced in quantities that never seemed adequate for demand. Rolled oats were combined with butter, brown sugar, eggs, and flour to create cookies that were crisp at the edges and soft in the middle. Raisins studded each cookie, adding natural sweetness and chewiness that complemented the oat texture perfectly. Cinnamon and vanilla enhanced the homey flavor that made students think of grandmothers and warm kitchens. The cookies were substantial enough that one or two provided genuine satisfaction. Bakers mixed massive bowls of dough and dropped cookies onto sheet pans that rotated through commercial ovens. The smell of baking oatmeal cookies drifted through hallways, building anticipation for lunch. Oatmeal raisin cookies represented the kind of from-scratch baking that cafeterias once did routinely, but rarely attempt today. Curried eggplant cubes reflected the decade's curiosity with global flavors, even if they were adapted into very simple home versions. Eggplant was chopped into cubes, sautéed in oil, and tossed with curry powder until the pieces turned golden and fragrant. It was usually served warm alongside chicken or lamb, adding an exotic note to otherwise traditional meals. Housewives liked it because it made use of an inexpensive vegetable while giving the impression of sophistication. For adventurous families, it felt like a small culinary trip without leaving the dining room. The mild curry flavor was tempered with onions or garlic, ensuring it was not too strong for children. It was an approachable way to introduce spice into a table that often leaned on casseroles and creamed vegetables. Curried eggplant cubes might seem dated now, but back then they symbolized the changing tastes of America, where international seasonings were starting to trickle into kitchens. It was humble but exciting, and it gave weeknight dinners a spark of variety. Raisin Bran muffins were a creative way to turn inexpensive breakfast cereal into a filling, budget-conscious baked treat that families could enjoy any time of day. Using boxed Raisin Bran cereal as a main ingredient helped stretch the flour and other baking basics while adding natural sweetness and texture from the raisins and bran flakes. These muffins offered a good source of fiber and energy, making them popular for breakfast, snacks, or school lunches during the 1970s. They were easy to make in batches, ideal for feeding families with limited time or money. Raisin Bran muffins could be customized with additional ingredients like nuts or cinnamon, but even the basic versions were satisfying and wholesome. The muffins held up well when stored, making them a practical option for busy households needing convenient meals or treats. This recipe showcased how resourcefulness and a bit of baking know-how allowed 1970s cooks to transform simple pantry staples into enjoyable, nourishing food for all ages. Where do we really start with canned ravioli? The traditional stuff was a no-go for people for the longest of times because there was just a skill barrier and flour wasn't available to anyone, certainly not most of the country. That's just how the Depression era was. A lot of the country was living well below their usual financial capacities. In times like that, even among canned food, ravioli stood out. Part of that was because Chef Boyardee, the company behind it, made such a good version. It even had a kid-friendly appeal, which goes a pretty long way. America in the 1970s was very pro-kids, all unplanned, mind you. Here, you would just throw in bits of meat filled into the pasta in a tomato sauce, and the rest was just a matter of heating it. You could eat it cold. You could also eat it with stale bread, something most people did so that the bread wouldn't go to waste and that the meal would become a bit more filling. Really though, taking out the skill factor from this is what made it the national staple it is today. Once you make something accessible enough for everyone, it becomes something everyone sees a point in buying. I don't know about you, but I know I've had my fair share of pennies on some canned ravioli. Shrimp cocktail cups were the sort of flashy appetizer that made every 1970s gathering feel just a little more glamorous without demanding a single stressful minute of cooking. Pre-cooked shrimp meant no one had to fiddle with boiling pots or worry about timing. You would simply chill those pink curls in a bowl of ice water while mixing up a tangy cocktail sauce of ketchup, prepared horseradish, a squeeze of lemon juice, and a dash of hot sauce if you were feeling bold. Iceberg lettuce shredded into crisp ribbons lined the serving cups to give everything a cool crunch. The shrimp were arranged in neat circles like tiny crowns, and the sauce was spooned right into the center so guests could dip as they pleased. This was food designed to impress and to be ready almost instantly. The bright red sauce and the frosty shrimp made a dramatic splash against the pale lettuce, and that visual punch was as important as the taste. Hosts loved how the dish stayed fresh on a buffet table for an entire evening while they enjoyed their own party. Caramel apple trifle turned the season's best flavors into a showpiece. Cubes of buttery pound cake were layered with spiced apples, caramel pudding, and whipped cream. Each layer glistened in clear glass bowls, a celebration of color and comfort. It was elegant enough for dinner parties, yet simple enough for home kitchens. The smell alone, cinnamon, brown sugar, butter, drew everyone closer. Every bite was soft and rich, the sweetness deepened by a hint of tart fruit. Families made it for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and every occasion in between. In a decade known for convenience, this dessert managed to feel special without being complicated. It captured the heart of 1970s gatherings, where beauty met practicality and tradition met innovation. Caramel apple trifle reminded everyone that celebration did not need excess, only intention. Served chilled, it tasted like the warmth of a family gathered together, layered, imperfect, and endlessly good. Fruit cocktail cake emerged as the dessert that proved cafeteria baking could compete with homemade versions. Canned fruit cocktail with its syrup was folded directly into yellow cake batter, creating pockets of sweet fruit throughout each slice. The cake baked up moist and tender, with the fruit settling slightly toward the bottom where it became jammy and caramelized against the pan. Some recipes called for a brown sugar and coconut topping that turned crunchy during baking, adding textural contrast to the soft crumb. Students looked forward to dessert days when fruit cocktail cake appeared, trading other items for extra squares of this surprisingly sophisticated sweet. The recipe used shelf-stable ingredients that schools could purchase in bulk and store indefinitely. Cafeteria bakers took pride in their fruit cocktail cakes, sometimes adding personal touches like nutmeg or vanilla. This cake represented the hidden talent within school kitchens and the genuine care that cafeteria workers brought to feeding children. Frosted lime salad was a vivid green spectacle that lived on buffet tables and Sunday dinners throughout the decade. It began with lime-flavored gelatin, which was poured into molds and chilled until firm. On top of that shimmering green base, housewives would spread a frosting made of cream cheese blended with crushed pineapple. The result was a layered dish that was part dessert, part salad, and entirely a conversation starter. Guests marveled at its bold color and unusual combination of tangy, sweet, and creamy flavors. Children enjoyed the pineapple while adults admired the cool, refreshing texture. It was one of those recipes that fit perfectly into the gelatin craze of the 1970s, where even salads were expected to jiggle. Frosted lime salad carried an almost retro elegance, presented in rings, domes, or squares depending on the mold used. Though its popularity faded, it still embodies the playful experimentation of an era that valued novelty as much as taste. In its own quirky way, frosted lime salad reflected the 1970s at its brightest and boldest. Pineapple meatballs were a popular 1970s dish that combined inexpensive ground meat with canned pineapple to add a sweet and tangy flavor, stretching limited protein further. The pineapple chunks softened the meatballs while infusing them with a unique twist that balanced savory and fruity notes. This recipe allowed families to enjoy a festive, flavorful meal without splurging on fancy ingredients. Typically baked or simmered in a simple sauce, these meatballs were served over rice or noodles, turning modest components into a filling dinner. The canned pineapple was often a pantry staple, prized for its long shelf life and ability to brighten up otherwise plain dishes. Pineapple meatballs became a fun and unexpected crowd pleaser at tables, embodying the spirit of 1970s home cooking where creativity met necessity. Its charm was in making the most of what was available while keeping meals exciting and tasty. Vienna sausages, on the other hand, were these really small canned sausages that would consist almost entirely of ground meat. The catch here was that this meat was finer than anything you had ever seen. It was a pantry item that was as common as salt in the 70s because of the dire need for these sausages in just about every situation. Kid about to go off to school? Husband off to work? Tired wife wants to make a sandwich for herself? There really wasn't any inconvenience at home that Vienna sausages weren't fit to handle. Plus, they had the benefit of being ready-made. You could literally eat these cold and right out of the can. And don't get me wrong, a bunch of people definitely did. You could fry it or heat it too, or you could just serve it with some bread and crackers. Hey, get a hot dog bun and you have yourself some proper street food. The reason these got popular was because of their insane appeal to everyone in most situations. Like I said, there was rarely a time when a Vienna sausage would not fix whatever food-related issue you were having. You know how the saying goes, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but often better than a master of one. Turkey noodle casserole wasn't the only way of using up leftover turkey from the fridge. Turkey tetrazzini was another delicious dish you could make the morning after Thanksgiving. This casserole typically started out with a base of spaghetti, along with a creamy sauce that's usually made from a combination of broth, cream, and sometimes cream of mushroom soup and vegetables like peas, carrots, or celery. It was named after the Italian opera singer Luisa Tetrazzini, who was known for her performances in the early 20th century. The dish is believed to have been created in the early 20th century, coinciding with Tetrazzini's rise to fame. Many recipes included cheese, such as Parmesan or cheddar, which made it kid-friendly. This was another great example of how Graham could make something so delicious out of leftovers that might have otherwise gone to waste. Radish and butter canapés offered a crisp, peppery bite that felt refreshingly rustic amid the richer party foods of the 1970s and still feels elegant today. Thin slices of fresh radish were laid across buttered rounds of rye or pumpernickel bread, their bright red edges standing out like little jewels on a festive tray. The key was the quality of the butter, which softened slightly against the cool bread and mellowed the sharpness of the radish without overpowering its natural flavor. A pinch of sea salt brought everything together, creating a taste that was both earthy and refined with each bite. Preparation took only a few minutes, making these canapés a favorite for hosts who wanted a unique appetizer without any cooking or complex ingredients. They reflected a quiet back-to-nature movement of the decade, when gardeners and health-conscious families embraced simple produce as something to be celebrated at the table. Served on a wooden board or silver tray, they added a sophisticated European touch to American cocktail parties and informal gatherings. Their balance of crunch, creaminess, and subtle spice kept guests coming back for more. And even today, the combination of radish and butter remains a timeless 5-minute snack. Holiday pecan tassies were the jewels of every dessert table. Tiny, golden, and delicate, they looked like miniature pies kissed by sugar and tradition. The crusts were pressed into muffin tins by hand, filled with a glossy mixture of butter, brown sugar, and pecans that baked into caramel perfection. They cooled on wire racks, their fragrance filling kitchens with warmth that felt like December itself. Women brought them to bake sales, church suppers, and cookie swaps, where they disappeared before anyone could count how many they'd made. Each one held a perfect balance of crisp and chewy, rich enough to taste like indulgence, small enough to justify another. The tassies were made from the heart, by hands that measured without spoons and baked with instinct. They represented the kind of craftsmanship that modern kitchens rarely see. The art of patience. For many, they were more than treats. They were holiday currency, traded and gifted with pride. Today, their memory lingers as a symbol of care, reminding us that sometimes the smallest desserts carry the biggest joy. Cheese Dreams were the open-faced grilled cheese sandwiches that cafeterias served when bread supplies needed stretching and children needed cheering. Slices of white bread were topped with American cheese and sometimes a thin tomato slice before being placed under commercial broilers until the cheese melted and developed brown spots. The bread underneath stayed soft while the cheese on top achieved a texture somewhere between melted and crispy. Served alongside tomato soup, Cheese Dreams created a combination that students associated with comfort and cold weather. The open-faced format meant each slice of bread supported a full portion of cheese rather than splitting it between two slices. Cafeteria ladies could prepare dozens simultaneously on large sheet pans, making Cheese Dreams efficient as well as popular. Some schools added bacon bits or diced ham beneath the cheese for protein. Cheese Dreams proved that cafeteria cooking could achieve genuine deliciousness with minimal ingredients and maximum care. Apricot rice salad blended sweet and savory flavors in a way that reflected the experimental side of 1970s kitchens. Cooked rice was chilled and then mixed with apricot preserves, chopped nuts, and sometimes a splash of lemon juice. The mixture was scooped into bowls or molded into rings, often garnished with lettuce for presentation. It was both filling and refreshing, combining the substance of rice with the sweetness of fruit. Housewives liked it because it could be made ahead and served cold, perfect for summer gatherings. The addition of nuts added texture and richness, while the apricot gave it a golden glow that stood out on crowded tables. Children found it fun because it felt like a dessert, while adults appreciated the unusual flavor balance. Apricot rice salad was a reflection of the decade's willingness to blur the lines between savory and sweet, salad and dessert. It is rarely seen today, but it once carried pride as a quirky, eye-catching dish that was affordable and memorable. Egg foo young in the Americanized style was a go-to meal for families looking for a quick and hearty dish without breaking the budget. This simple egg omelet is packed with whatever vegetables you had on hand, like bean sprouts, onions, and peas, all fried together and smothered in a savory brown sauce made from pantry staples. Unlike the traditional Chinese version, this recipe uses a more approachable flavor profile for American palates, making it a nostalgic reminder of 1970s takeout nights. It stretched a few eggs into a meal that felt like a treat and was easy enough to whip up on any weeknight. Plus, it made leftovers taste like new again the next day, proving that clever cooking was the real secret to surviving tight budgets. Whether it was served with rice or alone, egg foo young was a simple way to bring something a little different to the dinner table without spending much. The mix of fluffy eggs and crisp veggies gave families a comforting, filling dish that was perfect for when money was tight, but taste still mattered. Have you ever eaten pork neck bones? Have you ever eaten parts of the animal that were different from what you typically get served in steakhouses and butcher's shops? I bet not. I haven't either. It's just not common. You get different cuts of meat for different purposes, and all of them are aiming to be the best cut on the market that day. Animals get farmed in specific ways for this exact purpose. I mean, what do you think Wagyu is? Despite all that, there was a time when the working class in America only had pork neck bones to rely on. This trend of eating the less desirable, tougher parts of an animal came from two things: financial doom and a waste-nothing mentality. Put those together and your list of lunch options starts expanding by miles and miles. Pork neck bones were cheap, easily available, and never something that would be out of stock. It was also something that cattle-raising families were used to already, but the rest of the country caught on quick with their pork neck bone broths and stews. In contrast to the macaroni and cheese casserole is the zucchini tomato casserole. Often served with soy and onion dipping sauce, children preferred to stay away from this vegetable casserole, but adults loved the taste. If you have ever seen the film Ratatouille, the zucchini tomato casserole looks exactly like the main dish served up at the end. With sliced zucchini and tomatoes arranged in layered patterns and a hearty topping of cheese and breadcrumbs, the zucchini tomato casserole was truly Ratatouille coming to life. This casserole was preferred to be consumed during summers, as the tomatoes and zucchini were a refreshing alternative to heavier casseroles. Over time, the dish became less common amongst home chefs due to children disliking the vegetable base in this casserole. As fewer people cooked the casserole for dinner, it eventually disappeared from tables completely. Frozen orange. Julius delivered a frothy mall-era flashback that felt like pure sunshine in a glass. Orange juice concentrate was blended with cold milk, ice cubes, sugar, and a touch of vanilla extract until smooth and foamy. The result was a sweet, creamy drink that balanced the brightness of citrus with the richness of milk, making it both refreshing and slightly indulgent. Children adored the dessert-like texture, while adults welcomed the nostalgic reminder of shopping center treat stands and carefree weekend afternoons. Preparation took only a few minutes and no special equipment beyond a blender, which made it perfect for a spontaneous family snack or a lively brunch drink. Served in tall, chilled glasses with a straw, it looked festive without requiring any garnish at all. One sip instantly transported everyone back to the decade of wide collars and disco lights, proof that simple ingredients could create lasting memories. Peanut Holiday Icebox Cheesecake was the no-bake miracle every hostess needed. It was cool, creamy, and made days ahead, saving precious oven space for roasts and pies. Cream cheese folded with whipped topping became velvet smooth, poured into crumbly cookie crusts pressed by hand. It was indulgent yet practical, the spirit of 1970s ingenuity. Cooks decorated the top with cherries or mandarin slices, sometimes tinted the filling pink for flair. It lived in the refrigerator until it was time to shine, chilled, firm, and flawless. Every slice was a balance of richness and lightness, of effort hidden behind ease. It became the signature dessert of potlucks and neighborhood gatherings, the one everyone asked for again. The first cool bite after a hearty meal felt like exhale, sweet, airy relief. Icebox cheesecake was more than dessert. It was the taste of modern holiday convenience wrapped in nostalgia. It proved that even without baking, love could still set perfectly. American chop suey was the cafeteria's answer to Italian-Chinese fusion decades before fusion cuisine became trendy. Elbow macaroni was boiled until tender, then mixed with seasoned ground beef browned with onions and green peppers in massive tilting skillets. Tomato sauce and a blend of spices, including oregano and garlic powder, brought everything together into a hearty one-pot meal that could serve hundreds of students. The dish had nothing to do with actual Chinese cooking, but its name suggested exotic origins that made it seem more interesting than simple beef and pasta. Schools across New England particularly embraced this recipe, serving it weekly throughout fall and winter months. The combination of protein, starch, and vegetables in one serving made it nutritionally complete and easy to portion. Cafeteria ladies could prepare enormous batches in advance and keep them warm in steam tables for hours without quality loss. American chop suey was cafeteria efficiency at its finest. Celery crown salad was as much a visual piece as it was a food because the presentation mattered almost more than the taste. Housewives would take celery stalks, chill them until crisp, then fan them into the shape of a crown on a serving platter. The stalks would be held together with toothpicks or bands and then dressed with mayonnaise or a cheese-based sauce to add flavor. Sometimes pimentos or olives were added for color, turning the plain green into something more dramatic. It was refreshing, crunchy, and light, which made it a common sight on buffet tables crowded with heavier casseroles. The 1970s were a time when appearance at the table held value, and celery crown salad looked like something made with care even if it was simple to assemble. It offered a cool bite that balanced the richness of other dishes, and children often picked at it because of its playful shape. Though rarely made today, it once brought a sense of occasion to everyday celery. Vegetable stir-fry with ramen noodles made the most of inexpensive instant noodles and a mix of frozen or canned vegetables, creating a quick and satisfying meal for families on a budget. In the 1970s, ramen noodles were an affordable pantry staple, loved for their long shelf life and ease of preparation. Tossing them in a hot pan with whatever vegetables were available, like carrots, peas, or cabbage, turned a simple packet of noodles into a colorful, nourishing dish. The combination of crunchy veggies and soft noodles made for a texture-packed meal that didn't cost much but filled hungry bellies efficiently. It was a clever way to add variety and nutrients without the need for expensive fresh produce. The use of soy sauce or basic seasonings enhanced the flavors, mimicking popular takeout dishes, but at a fraction of the price. This dish quickly became a favorite for weeknight dinners and lunchboxes alike, proving that resourcefulness in the kitchen could lead to tasty, wholesome results even during tight times. Vegetable stir-fry with ramen noodles captured the essence of 1970s thrift and comfort food. Egg drop soup is something we're so comfortable with now. I mean, it's something you literally can never escape as soon as you step out into the street. God forbid you go to any Chinatown, really. This simple and incredibly satisfying dish was something that actually found its footing right in the heart of the 70s in America. As a nation, our interest in foods beyond our shores was increasing. Scandinavian, Swedish, European, Japanese, Chinese, Taiwanese, you name it, we were trying it. Of course, one of the first places we ever went to was just China. They had so much food that was literally perfect for takeout culture. Egg drop soup was one of those, and it was just a simple broth base that had a bit of seasoning. Stuff like soy sauce, white pepper, and sesame oil. Then beaten eggs would be thrown in and make these super artistic-looking strands. Next, you would just thicken it, and you would have a soup perfect for conquering winter and restoring some spirit in you in like 5 minutes and $1. Pretty neat, right? This became something that was recognized the most out of Chinese American culture, and something that definitely had the potential to go mainstream, as it eventually did by 2025. Avocado boats floated onto the scene when Americans first fell in love with the smooth green fruit, and they quickly became a symbol of 1970s sophistication and California style. Perfectly ripe avocados were halved and pitted, their creamy centers forming natural bowls for a cool seafood salad of crab, shrimp, or even tuna, mixed with a light dressing of lemon juice and herbs. A sprinkle of paprika or a squeeze of fresh lemon brightened the flavor and added visual flair that looked straight out of a restaurant menu. The preparation was as easy as slicing the fruit and stirring the filling, yet the finished dish looked as elegant as anything served in a fancy coastal cafe or a high-end dinner party. These boats brought a tropical note to suburban dinner tables and fit the era's growing interest in fresh produce and lighter California cuisine. They were ideal for light lunches, breezy cocktail parties, or last-minute suppers when turning on the stove felt like too much effort after a long day. The combination of buttery avocado and chilled seafood made each bite luxurious, despite the minimal cost and time, proving that quick recipes could still feel decadent and modern for every household. Date pinwheel cookies were the kind of treat that whispered of patience and home. Thin spirals of golden dough wrapped around a sweet, sticky date filling, sliced into perfect rounds before baking. The scent of cinnamon, brown sugar, and fruit filled every corner of the house, mingling with the hum of conversation and laughter. These cookies were the pride of every Christmas tin, a careful craft, rolled tight and sliced with love. Making them took time, cooking the dates down to a thick paste, chilling the dough just right, and slicing with a steady hand. Mothers passed the recipe to daughters like a secret handshake of holiday care. Each cookie came out soft in the middle, crisp at the edges, the dates caramelizing just enough to catch the light. They weren't flashy, but they carried a quiet beauty, a swirl of tradition in every bite. When shared, they felt personal, like a memory given form. For families who made them year after year, date pinwheels became more than cookies. They became time itself, baked and sweetly spun into a circle. Cheese soufflé casserole was a simplified take on the classic French soufflé, adapted for the practicality of American households. Instead of fussing with delicate timing and perfect rises, housewives would prepare a cheesy egg mixture and bake it in a casserole dish until puffy and golden. It offered the look and taste of a soufflé without the stress of collapse, making it ideal for potlucks and family dinners. The dish carried a rich, savory flavor that paired well with salads, meats, or even just bread. It was hearty enough to act as a main dish, but usually played the role of a side, standing proudly among other casseroles of the era. For families who wanted to bring something impressive to gatherings, cheese soufflé casserole delivered both taste and reliability. Children liked its creamy texture, while adults appreciated the sense of European flair without complicated cooking. Though the soufflé name gave it elegance, the casserole format made it accessible to everyone. Today it is almost forgotten, but in the 1970s it was a proud showcase of ingenuity. Chicken patty sandwiches became the reliable protein option that appeared weekly on cafeteria menus throughout the decade. Breaded chicken patties arrived frozen and uniform, requiring only deep frying or baking before being placed on soft hamburger buns. The coating was seasoned with enough spice to make each bite interesting, while the chicken inside stayed moist despite industrial processing. Mayonnaise and shredded lettuce completed the sandwich, creating something familiar and satisfying for students who knew exactly what to expect. The consistency was the appeal, with every chicken patty sandwich tasting identical to the last. Students could count on this option when other menu items seemed too adventurous or unfamiliar. Cafeteria workers appreciated how quickly these sandwiches could be assembled during busy lunch rushes. Chicken patty sandwiches represented the industrialization of school food that prioritized efficiency while maintaining acceptable quality. Creamed peas on toast offered a quick and creamy way to enjoy vegetables, serving tender peas in a rich white sauce over crispy toast, making it a popular breakfast or light supper option during the 1970s. This dish was budget-friendly because it used canned or frozen peas and pantry ingredients like milk, butter, and flour to create a silky sauce. The creamy texture softened the peas, making them more appealing to children and adults alike, while the toast provided a crunchy base that helped stretch the meal further. It was a go-to recipe for households wanting to add a bit of vegetable goodness to their diets without splurging on fresh produce. The comforting combination of warm toast and rich sauce made it feel indulgent despite its simplicity and low cost. Creamed peas on toast captured the era's balance between thrift and taste, reminding families that even humble ingredients could come together to form a delicious and satisfying dish. So this isn't really in the same rank as the neck bones of pork, but fried chicken livers were a really inexpensive way to have protein in the 70s. It caught on quicker than you would think, especially in rural America. Organ meats actually used to be a staple of everyday American diets, but that trend fell out of style during the middle of the 20th century. Fried chicken livers, on the other hand, were something that stood the test of time. A part of this, people say, is because of the versatility of the chicken livers and variety on menus. You could season these with basic spices or entire blends and rubs. You could marinate it, bread it, deep fry it, boil it, roast it, or grill it. Lots of home cooks even had their own little regional tricks they would swear by. Stuff like soaking it in milk or salt water so that the iron-heavy flavor of the chicken liver would go down. Whatever they did, people would just enjoy the fact that this was cheap, easy to make, and really good to eat. Curried egg salad. Lettuce cups turned a classic lunchtime staple into something exotic and lively, reflecting the 1970s fascination with international spices. Hard-cooked eggs were quickly chopped and blended with mayonnaise, a dash of mustard, and a fragrant spoonful of golden curry powder. Freshly chopped celery and green onions added crunch and a subtle bite, while a squeeze of lemon brightened the whole mixture. Instead of the usual bread, the salad was spooned into crisp lettuce leaves, creating a cool, handheld wrap that looked as good as it tasted. This twist required no stove time beyond the pre-cooked eggs and came together in moments, making it ideal for warm days or busy evenings. The mild heat of the curry lent a gentle warmth that felt exciting but not overpowering, introducing many home cooks to flavors beyond the traditional American pantry. Guests loved the vibrant color and surprising aroma, while hosts enjoyed the ease of serving something that felt both healthful and adventurous. In just a few minutes, these lettuce cups showed how a small change in seasoning could reinvent an old favorite. Oatmeal scotchies were the heart of holiday giving. Chewy and golden, they blended oats and butterscotch chips into something simple yet extraordinary. The smell alone could fill a room with warmth, wrapping every corner in sweetness. Each batch came out of the oven soft in the middle, crisp at the edges, perfect in their imperfection. They were the kind of cookie baked with conversation, laughter, and the radio playing in the background. Mothers stacked them in tins lined with wax paper, sending them to friends, teachers, and faraway relatives. They represented kindness more than luxury, care more than presentation. Oatmeal scotchies held a kind of magic that never made it into cookbooks, the magic of togetherness. They were the humble heroes of the 1970s dessert table, proof that the simplest ingredients could carry the most love. One bite, and you could taste home. Hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes was the meal that proved cafeteria ladies understood comfort food better than any restaurant chef. Ground beef was browned in massive tilting skillets, then flour was sprinkled over the meat and stirred until it absorbed the fat and juices. Milk or beef broth was added gradually while stirring constantly until a thick, creamy gravy formed around every crumble of meat. This savory mixture was ladled generously over mounds of mashed potatoes made from flakes reconstituted with butter and milk. The combination created a meal that satisfied on the deepest level, warming children from the inside out on cold school days. Students who cleaned their trays often returned for seconds when available, and the smell of browning beef drew them toward the lunch line before the bell rang. The recipe required minimal ingredients but maximum attention to technique, as lumpy gravy was considered unacceptable by proud cafeteria veterans. Hamburger gravy represented honest institutional cooking at its finest. Mushroom rice pilaf was one of those dishes that showed just how much the 1970s leaned into casseroles as the answer for everything. Housewives would reach for canned mushrooms, pour them into rice, and simmer the whole thing with bouillon cubes until the flavor seeped through. Some would stop there and serve it straight from the stove, but the more popular approach was to pour it into a casserole dish and bake it until the top formed a crust. It was one of those meals that felt just fancy enough for a potluck without costing much or demanding complicated work. The canned mushrooms gave it that earthy taste, and when you added in the richness of broth, it seemed like something better than just plain rice. For families, it was filling and easy to reheat, which is why it showed up on dinner tables again and again. Mushroom rice pilaf sat quietly next to roasts or chicken, and sometimes it even became the star on its own. Today, it has mostly faded from memory, but back then it was a dependable comfort that everyone knew how to make. Mock tuna salad made with mashed canned chickpeas gave families a vegetarian option that saved money while still feeling satisfying. By substituting expensive tuna with protein-packed chickpeas, people could whip up a creamy, flavorful salad using budget pantry staples like mayonnaise, celery, and a dash of mustard. This clever switch allowed folks to enjoy the familiar tang and texture of a tuna salad sandwich without reaching for costly canned fish. It was especially handy during the 1970s when canned goods were pantry mainstays and fresh ingredients were often hard to afford. The salad was versatile too, perfect served on bread, crackers, or simply eaten by the spoonful, making it a go-to for quick lunches or potluck dishes. The gentle, earthy flavor of the chickpeas paired well with the crunchy veggies, providing a satisfying bite every time. This dish stood as proof that a little creativity could turn humble ingredients into something special, and it brought smiles to many faces who craved something familiar but affordable. Man, I'm telling you, people weren't living too good before oatmeal became a nationwide thing. I mean, they were, but the best they had to go for was cornmeal porridge. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely some die-hard fans of this stuff. Lots of people prefer it over your typical bowl of oatmeal. Personally, I could never vibe too well with that, but you let me know how you feel about the porridge versus oatmeal debate in the comments down below. Back to the video though, cornmeal and corn in general have long been a staple of the food of the working class. It's been something that people have been abusing maliciously since the times of the first colonial settlers, and it'll be that way for a long while into the future too. Corn's just that good. More so, it's just that easy to grow. That's why it was such a staple. In communities of every kind, and in America, mind you, there are more ethnic groups than there are states. This cornmeal porridge excelled. African American neighborhoods, Caribbean families, and Southern homes alike would love simmering cornmeal on some fire, mixing it with water and milk. That thickened porridge at the end was all a man could want at the end of the day. For me, I like my porridge a bit less corny, but everyone's got their own tastes. It is worth mentioning that it's because corn was so strongly associated with farming, farm work, farmsteads, and just the general lifestyles of day-to-day laborers in rural areas that the rich upper middle class, and even just the middle class in cities, always thought of it as a sign of someone being down on their luck financially. Antipasto skewers took the bold flavors of an Italian deli and delivered them in a bite-sized form that defined 1970s cocktail hour. Cubes of sharp cheese, slices of salami, tangy pickled peppers, and briny olives were threaded onto small wooden toothpicks in whatever order pleased the eye. The result was a rainbow of reds, greens, and creamy yellows that looked as striking as they tasted. Because everything came straight from the refrigerator or pantry, preparation was as simple as opening jars and slicing a few wedges of cheese. Guests could grab a skewer with one hand while holding a drink in the other, which made them a perfect choice for lively gatherings where conversation mattered more than formal seating. A drizzle of olive oil or a light dusting of dried oregano could be added at the last second for extra flair. The salty, savory bite captured the spirit of an adventurous decade when Americans were eager to try European flavors but still wanted the speed of a 5-minute recipe. These skewers remain a perfect example of how a few quality ingredients can create a party dish that feels effortless and unforgettable. Toasted marshmallow pie was a celebration of comfort and creativity. Every slice held the warmth of a winter fireplace, its top blanketed with perfectly browned marshmallows that melted into a golden crust. Underneath, a rich layer of chocolate filling waited, silky and sweet. It was a dessert born from campfire memories, reimagined for the suburban kitchen. Housewives of the 1970s loved its easy magic, a few simple ingredients transformed into something spectacular. Children gathered around ovens just to watch the marshmallows puff and brown, laughing when the sugar bubbled over the edge. Each slice felt like a hug, sticky and soft, a reminder that joy did not need to be complicated. This was a pie that belonged on every holiday table, a symbol of togetherness that looked as festive as it tasted. Long before gourmet took hold, toasted marshmallow pie proved that warmth could be baked, shared, and remembered. Today, it remains one of those desserts that never needed to grow up, the flavor of holidays where wonder was still simple. Shepherd's pie arrived on cafeteria menus as a clever way to stretch ground beef while incorporating vegetables children might otherwise refuse. A layer of seasoned ground beef mixed with peas, carrots, and corn formed the base in large hotel pans. Mashed potatoes were spread thickly on top, then the surface was roughened with fork tines to create peaks that would brown attractively during baking. The assembled pies baked until the potato topping turned golden and the meat mixture bubbled up around the edges. Each portion delivered protein, starch, and vegetables in a single serving that satisfied both nutritional requirements and childhood appetites. The crispy potato peaks became the most sought-after bites, with students strategically cutting their portions to maximize crunchy edges. Cafeteria workers appreciated how shepherd's pie made vegetables acceptable to picky eaters who would reject the same peas and carrots served separately. This dish represented the institutional kitchen's mastery of disguising nutrition as pure comfort. Prune whip mold was a dessert-like side dish that found its way onto many 1970s tables. Prunes were stewed until soft, whipped into a light puree, and folded with gelatin and whipped cream. The mixture was poured into molds and chilled until it set, creating a delicate, airy texture. The flavor was sweet yet mild, offering a way to enjoy fruit in a new and interesting form. It was often served in slices or scoops, sometimes topped with extra cream or nuts. Housewives relied on prune whip mold because it was easy to prepare, inexpensive, and could be made ahead of time for gatherings. It appealed especially to adults who appreciated its subtle sweetness and lightness after heavy main dishes. Prune whip mold carried the same charm as other gelatin-based recipes of the era, with the bonus of feeling wholesome thanks to the fruit base. Though it has nearly disappeared from menus today, it once held a firm place as a creative, thrifty, and surprisingly elegant dish for families and guests alike. Sloppy lentil sliders were a clever way to enjoy the sloppy Joe craze on a budget, swapping ground beef for lentils simmered in tangy tomato sauce. These mini patties were packed with flavor and nutrients, but cost a fraction of traditional meat sliders, making them a popular choice for families tightening their belts. Lentils provided a meaty texture that held together well when formed into small slider-sized patties, which were then topped with the signature sloppy Joe sauce. Served on small buns or even plain bread, these sliders brought joy to dinner tables without denting wallets. This dish embodied the spirit of 1970s thriftiness, taking a beloved classic and making it accessible to all income levels. The warm, tangy sauce paired perfectly with the hearty lentils, satisfying appetites and stretching meals further. It was a great way to introduce plant-based proteins before such ideas became mainstream, showcasing the timeless nature of creative, budget-friendly cooking. Let me introduce you to one of the all-time greats. We've heard its name before, but today we're going for its origin story. Oatmeal has been one of the top dogs of the breakfast game for arguably centuries, and it'll be here long after you and I and everyone we know are gone, friend. Think of them like the Kobe Bryant of breakfast. On top of this, we had lots of brands that were really just too good at what they did. Quaker Oats is one of them. This was the leading oatmeal brand, and it was best known for its quick oats and old-fashioned oats. You have to understand what coming up with this means for people. We live in a post-oatmeal world, so we can't really appreciate it, but never before was nutrition, protein, and affordability so neatly packaged into one little thing. Then you had Mother's Oats, which, despite eventually being absorbed later on by Quaker, was a pretty neat competitor. You also had Rommel Meal Oatmeal and so many other brands trying to win the top dog position. Of course, that was amazing for the consumer, but nowadays, eating oatmeal just means you're taking care of your health. Back then, it meant you were poor and couldn't go to a diner for a proper American breakfast, despite oats being older than sentiments like that in American culture. Wrapped ham rolls were the ultimate retro finger food, mixing tangy, creamy, and smoky flavors in a tidy little bundle. Thin slices of deli-style ham were laid flat and spread with a smooth layer of cream cheese whipped until airy and easy to glide across the meat. A crisp dill pickle spear was placed in the center, and the ham was rolled tightly around it like a savory present. Each roll was then sliced into bite-sized rounds that revealed a cheerful swirl of pink, white, and green. This snack came together in moments and needed no cooking, making it a go-to choice for last-minute parties or after-school treats. The crunch of the pickle balanced the richness of the cream cheese while the salty ham tied everything together, creating a flavor that was bright yet satisfying. Guests loved the playful look and unexpected zing, while hosts appreciated how easily the rolls could be made ahead and served straight from the refrigerator. During a decade that celebrated quick but flavorful bites, pickle-wrapped ham rolls were a clever solution that proved simplicity can still feel exciting. Herbed candy cane fudge bars brought holiday sparkle to every table. Chocolate fudge, soft and glossy, was spread thick in pans before being topped with crushed peppermint sticks. The colors, deep brown and bright red, looked like Christmas captured in candy. Each bite was a dance of cool mint and rich cocoa, bold yet balanced. Children helped press the candies on top, their fingers sticky with chocolate and joy. Mothers wrapped pieces in wax paper and tucked them into tins bound for neighbors and friends. The bars snapped cleanly, each one shining with little shards of peppermint glass. They were a gift that spoke of cheer and warmth without needing a card. In an era when everything was homemade and heart-driven, candy cane fudge bars stood out as both festive and effortless. They brought smiles to faces and sweetness to cold winter nights. One bite and the holidays felt close again. Simple, sincere, and sparkling. Cinnamon rolls from scratch-filled cafeteria hallways with an aroma that announced something special was being served that morning. Yeast dough was rolled flat, spread with softened butter, and generously coated with cinnamon sugar before being rolled into logs and sliced. The individual rolls were placed in large sheet pans where they rose again before baking to golden perfection. Warm from the oven, each roll was drizzled with vanilla icing that melted into the crevices and pooled on the tray beneath. Students who arrived early on cinnamon roll days were rewarded with rolls still warm enough to steam when pulled apart. The combination of soft, pillowy dough with sweet cinnamon filling created a breakfast treat that rivaled any bakery offering. Cafeteria bakers often started before dawn to ensure the rolls were ready when students arrived. These weren't frozen convenience products, but genuine scratch baking that demonstrated real skill. Shredded wheat tomato bake was one of those unusual dishes that turned a breakfast staple into something savory for dinner tables. Housewives would layer shredded wheat biscuits in a casserole dish, pour stewed tomatoes over them, and top it with grated cheese. When baked, the biscuits softened into a dense base that absorbed all the tomato flavor, while the cheese formed a golden crust. It was thrifty, creative, and surprisingly filling, making it a dependable addition for meatless nights. Children often raised eyebrows at the sight, but many families relied on it to stretch limited groceries. It carried a home-style charm and was easy to put together using pantry items that were already on hand. Though it may sound odd today, shredded wheat tomato bake reflected the 1970s trend of experimentation in casseroles. It was practical, it was comforting, and it showed how resourceful cooks were in making the most of what they had. While forgotten now, it once carried a quiet sense of pride to Buffett spreads. Baked potato skins with cheese and onions were a filling and budget-conscious snack or side dish made by topping leftover potato skins with affordable cheese and onions, then baking until crispy and melty. In the 1970s, potatoes were a staple food, and using the skins helped reduce waste while adding texture and flavor. The cheese was often a simple, mild variety, sprinkled generously over the potatoes to create a gooey topping that paired perfectly with the sweetness of sautéed or raw onions. This dish was an easy way to turn leftovers into something special without requiring extra ingredients or time. It was popular as an appetizer at family gatherings or a quick after-school snack. Baked potato skins with cheese and onions demonstrated the era's love for maximizing ingredients and enjoying comforting homemade food on a tight budget. Simple corn dog nuggets were the bite-sized treats that made hot dogs exciting again for students tired of the same old frankfurters and buns. Hot dog pieces were dipped in sweet cornmeal batter and deep-fried until the coating puffed up golden and crispy around each morsel. The batter had a slight sweetness that complemented the salty, savory hot dog within, creating a flavor combination children found irresistible. Served with packets of mustard and ketchup for dipping, corn dog nuggets disappeared from trays faster than almost any other cafeteria offering. Their small size made them perfect for little hands and eliminated the mess of traditional corn dogs that dripped batter and condiments. Cafeteria workers could fry large batches quickly, keeping up with demand during busy lunch periods. The nuggets stayed warm and crispy longer than full-sized corn dogs, maintaining quality throughout extended service. Corn dog nuggets represented the cafeteria's ability to reimagine familiar foods into formats that better served institutional needs. Vegetable pot pie without meat was a savory, budget-conscious dish that used whatever vegetables were available, baked under a simple crust to create a filling and comforting meal in the 1970s. This pie relied on affordable staples like potatoes, carrots, peas, and onions, mixed in a creamy sauce made from pantry basics like milk and flour. The crust was often homemade with flour and shortening, keeping costs low and preparation simple. Baking the pie allowed families to transform inexpensive vegetables into a hearty, warm dinner that could feed multiple people. It was especially popular during seasons when fresh meat was scarce or expensive, proving that vegetables alone could deliver satisfaction. The flaky crust added texture and substance, making each bite feel special despite the frugality behind it. Vegetable pot pie highlighted how 1970s cooks used ingenuity and basic ingredients to create meals that felt like a treat while keeping family budgets intact. Tea sandwiches offered a gentle nod to classic British afternoon gatherings while perfectly suiting the brisk rhythm of American entertaining in the 1970s. Thin slices of soft white bread were spread lightly with sweet butter, then layered with delicate watercress leaves that brought a peppery freshness. The sandwiches were trimmed of crusts and cut into tidy rectangles or triangles, creating a clean, graceful look that appealed to both casual and formal crowds. Hosts could prepare an entire platter in just minutes, stacking the dainty pieces on silver trays or colorful plates to match the occasion. Despite their simplicity, the sandwiches carried a quiet sophistication that felt right at home at bridal showers, garden parties, or holiday teas. The mild butteriness balanced the bright green snap of the watercress, offering a subtle but memorable flavor that never overwhelmed the palate. Guests appreciated the lightness after richer fare and loved the way these sandwiches paired with hot tea or a chilled sparkling drink. Quick to assemble yet timeless in presentation, Devonshire tea sandwiches demonstrated how a few quality ingredients could create a moment of refined pleasure in less than 5 minutes. Cinnamon roll coffee cake was the scent of holiday mornings wrapped in sugar and spice. Swirled with brown sugar, butter, and crushed nuts, it baked into golden layers that filled the kitchen with warmth. Each slice pulled apart in soft spirals, sticky and sweet, the kind of comfort only cinnamon could bring. It was served at brunches, after church services, or late at night when the house was still. Families gathered around it with coffee cups steaming, sharing stories and seconds without hesitation. It felt festive without trying, the unspoken centerpiece of winter tables. In the 1970s, boxed mixes made it faster, but the heart stayed handmade. The glaze dripped down the sides, pooling into little puddles of joy. Cinnamon roll coffee cake was a dessert that belonged to everyone, rich with smell, memory, and the taste of being together. Apple Crisp was the autumn dessert that cafeteria bakers prepared when fresh apples were affordable and students needed warming from the inside. Sliced apples were tossed with sugar and cinnamon, then spread in hotel pans before being topped with a crumbly mixture of oats, flour, butter, and brown sugar. During baking, the topping turned golden and crispy, while the apples beneath softened into tender, juicy fruit. The contrast between crunchy topping and soft filling made each bite interesting and deeply satisfying. Served warm with vanilla ice cream when budgets allowed, Apple Crisp became the dessert students anticipated all fall. The recipe was forgiving enough that even inexperienced bakers produced consistent results. Apple Crisp represented seasonal cooking at its best, using affordable ingredients at peak freshness. This dessert reminded students that simple preparations could achieve genuine deliciousness. Eggplant au vin reflected the growing trend of borrowing from European flavors to make vegetables more exciting. Sliced eggplant was layered in a baking dish, drenched with red wine sauce and baked until soft and savory. It was a side dish that carried richness and a touch of sophistication, offering something different from the heavy casseroles that dominated the era. Housewives liked it because it transformed a plain vegetable into something impressive without requiring expensive meat or cheese. The red wine gave it a bold flavor that set it apart, making it a conversation piece at dinner parties. Eggplant au vin was often paired with roasted chicken or beef, but it was strong enough to hold its own as a main for lighter meals. Though eggplant was not always a favorite among children, the sauce made it more approachable for adults. It represents the 1970s curiosity with international flair, a time when American cooks wanted to feel worldly without straying too far from comfort. Eggplant au vin is rarely seen today, but it once carried quiet elegance into everyday kitchens. Hot dog and sauerkraut skillet was a quick, budget-friendly meal that combined inexpensive hot dogs with tangy canned sauerkraut, sautéed together for a flavorful one-pan dish. During the 1970s, this skillet meal was popular among families looking for easy dinners that required minimal preparation and affordable ingredients. The hot dogs, often store-brand or discounted, provided a salty, meaty base, while the sauerkraut added a sharp, vinegary bite that balanced the richness. Cooking both ingredients together allowed the flavors to meld, creating a comforting, savory dish perfect for busy weeknights. The skillet could be served with simple sides like bread or potatoes, stretching the meal further. This combination was especially appreciated in households where time and money were scarce, but good flavor was still desired. Hot dog and sauerkraut skillet exemplified the era's practical approach to home cooking: quick, tasty, and economical. Salmon mousse on crackers offered a rich yet speedy spread that brought a taste of the sea to every retro buffet. Canned salmon was drained and blended with softened cream cheese, a squeeze of fresh lemon juice, and a pinch of dill until smooth and airy. A quick dash of Worcestershire or hot sauce added depth and a gentle kick, while a scattering of chopped chives provided color. Spread onto crisp crackers or piped through a pastry bag for a decorative swirl, this mousse looked elegant but required only a few minutes of effort. Its creamy texture paired beautifully with the light crunch of the cracker, creating a snack that felt indulgent yet effortless. Hosts appreciated the affordability and convenience of shelf-stable salmon, and guests loved the balance of tangy citrus and savory fish. In less time than it took to set the table, a platter of salmon mousse transformed any gathering into something memorable. Banana Cream Delight lived up to its name, every spoonful light, cool, and layered with love. It started with sliced bananas nestled into creamy vanilla pudding stacked between graham crackers or vanilla wafers, then crowned with whipped topping. As it chilled overnight, the flavors melded into something soft and silky, not too sweet but just right. This was the kind of dessert that came out after the main meal, carried proudly in glass casseroles and greeted with smiles. The first scoop was always the hardest, cutting through the neat layers to reveal the golden pudding beneath. Families made it for potlucks, birthdays, and especially holidays when ovens were already too full. In the 1970s, it represented everything good about home kitchens: resourceful, reliable, and always made to share. The bananas browned just a little, but no one minded. It was the taste that mattered, not the perfection. Every bite tasted like memory, soft as a lullaby, and rich as the laughter it was served with. Banana Cream Delight wasn't just a dessert, it was a promise that even the simplest ingredients could create something unforgettable. Swedish meatballs arrived in cafeterias during a decade when Scandinavian cuisine briefly captured American imagination. These smaller, rounder meatballs were made from a mixture of ground beef and pork, combined with breadcrumbs soaked in milk, creating an exceptionally tender texture. The secret was the creamy gravy made from pan drippings, beef broth, and sour cream that coated each meatball in pale brown sauce. Cafeteria versions often substituted evaporated milk for sour cream to reduce costs, but the result remained surprisingly delicious. Students received portions of meatballs swimming in gravy alongside egg noodles or mashed potatoes that soaked up every drop of sauce. The dish felt sophisticated compared to typical cafeteria fare, introducing children to flavors beyond standard American cooking. Teachers often requested extra portions, recognizing quality when they tasted it. Swedish meatballs showed that school kitchens could execute international recipes when given proper ingredients. Puffed wheat casserole was an inventive way to take a breakfast cereal and turn it into a savory side dish. Housewives would mix puffed wheat with a cheesy sauce, spread it in a baking dish, and bake until bubbly and golden. The cereal acted like breadcrumbs, giving the dish a toasty crunch on top while softening inside. It was unusual but surprisingly comforting, and it showed the willingness of 1970s kitchens to stretch pantry staples in new directions. Puffed wheat casserole paired well with meats or stood on its own for light meals. Children liked it because of the cereal connection, while adults appreciated its frugality and flavor. It was easy to prepare in large pans, making it a natural fit for potlucks. Though it has mostly disappeared, it embodies the spirit of reimagining everyday ingredients. Puffed wheat casserole may sound strange now, but in the 1970s it carried warmth, thrift, and a dash of creativity that made it memorable. Vegetable and cheese quesadillas were a speedy, budget-friendly meal that used simple tortillas stuffed with whatever affordable vegetables and cheese were on hand. During the 1970s, tortillas were an economical pantry staple, and pairing them with inexpensive veggies like bell peppers, onions, or canned corn made for a satisfying meal that did not break the bank. The cheese, often a mild, budget-friendly variety, melted into the warm, crispy tortillas, creating a delicious contrast of textures. These quesadillas were quick to prepare, making them ideal for busy families needing a filling meal in minutes. The flexibility of this dish meant leftovers could be turned into quesadillas with ease, stretching ingredients further and reducing waste. Served with a side of simple salsa or sour cream if available, they added a bit of excitement to the dinner table. Vegetable and cheese quesadillas perfectly captured the essence of practical home cooking in the 1970s. Easy, adaptable, and delicious without requiring expensive ingredients or fancy techniques. Butter banana milkshake turned two pantry staples into a thick and creamy drink that fit perfectly with 1970s health food trends. Ripe bananas were peeled and dropped into a blender with smooth peanut butter, cold milk, and a drizzle of honey for natural sweetness. Ice cubes added a frosty texture, while a pinch of cinnamon offered a warm spice that balanced the nutty flavor. This quick shake delivered protein and energy, making it a favorite after-school treat or a speedy breakfast for busy mornings. Health-conscious adults enjoyed the natural ingredients, while kids loved the dessert-like taste and milkshake consistency. Preparation took less than 5 minutes from start to finish, and cleanup was just as easy. Poured into tall glasses, it carried the comforting flavors of a peanut butter sandwich but in a refreshing, drinkable form, making it a simple pleasure that captured the decades' enthusiasm for wholesome yet indulgent snacks. Spiced pear bread pudding was the kind of dessert that made old recipes feel new again. It began with cubes of stale bread, soaked in milk and eggs until soft, then baked with slices of canned pears, cinnamon, and nutmeg. The pears melted into the pudding, their syrup seeping through every layer to create sweetness that felt natural and deep. Served warm with a drizzle of cream, it tasted like comfort you could hold. It was a dish that made use of leftovers and turned them into something extraordinary. A 1970s virtue wrapped in flavor. Families made it after holidays when the pantry was full of odds and ends, proving again that thrift could still be beautiful. Each spoonful carried the softness of pear, the spice of memory, and the weight of tradition. Spiced pear pudding was not glamorous, but it had heart. It was the taste of home, gently reborn in every bite. Holiday Salisbury steak with mushroom gravy was the cafeteria's answer to fine dining, transforming ground beef into something that felt almost elegant. Seasoned beef patties were shaped to resemble small steaks, then pan-fried until browned on both sides before being smothered in rich mushroom gravy. The gravy was made from beef broth thickened with flour, studded with canned mushroom slices that added earthiness and visual appeal. Served alongside mashed potatoes or buttered noodles, this dish satisfied students who craved something more sophisticated than regular hamburgers. The patties were tender from the addition of breadcrumbs and egg, holding together perfectly when cut with a fork. Cafeteria ladies took pride in their Salisbury steak, adjusting seasonings to create signature versions that students recognized and requested. The mushroom gravy elevated the humble ground beef into territory that felt almost restaurant quality. Salisbury steak proved that institutional cooking could achieve refinement without sacrificing efficiency. Spanish rice with green peppers was one of those side dishes that showed up on dinner tables and potluck spreads all across the 1970s. Housewives would take plain rice, stir it into tomato sauce, then add onions and chopped bell peppers before baking it in the oven. The result was a colorful casserole that brought together sweetness, tang, and a little bite from the peppers. It was inexpensive and hearty, which made it perfect for families looking to stretch meals without serving the same old plain rice every night. Spanish rice was often paired with chicken or pork chops, but it could also stand on its own next to beans or salad. Some cooks even added a sprinkle of cheese on top, letting it melt into a gooey crust. The dish carried a sense of flair because it looked fancier than it really was, and the peppers gave it a bright edge that guests remembered. Today, it feels like a relic, but in the 1970s, Spanish rice with green peppers was a dependable favorite that balanced thrift with flavor. Tomato soup with grilled cheese croutons took a beloved classic and added a budget-friendly twist by using small cubes of toasted cheese sandwiches as a crunchy topping. The smooth, tangy tomato soup was often made from canned tomatoes or tomato paste, simmered with simple seasonings like onions and garlic to keep costs low. Adding grilled cheese croutons brought texture and extra flavor without requiring expensive ingredients. This dish was a staple in 1970s homes, offering warmth and comfort during cooler months without stretching the food budget. The croutons were typically made from leftover sandwiches, reducing waste while enhancing the soup. Together, the creamy soup and crispy cheese bites created a satisfying contrast that felt indulgent even when made with humble components. Tomato soup with grilled cheese croutons was a perfect example of turning pantry basics into something more memorable, making it a cherished meal for families of all sizes. Spinach dip and rice squares captured the heart of every 1970s gathering by turning a humble sour cream base into a bold centerpiece in minutes. Frozen chopped spinach was thawed and squeezed dry before being stirred into sour cream and mayonnaise with a packet of vegetable soup mix for instant flavor. Chopped water chestnuts added a satisfying crunch while a splash of lemon brightened the creamy mixture. Cocktail rye bread slices became the perfect little serving plates, sturdy enough to hold a generous scoop without softening. Hosts loved how quickly the dip came together and how easily it could be made ahead of time, while guests admired the earthy green color and savory aroma. No stove or oven was required, just a quick mix and chill to let the flavors meld. Served cold or at room temperature, these bite-sized squares made cocktail hours and neighborhood parties feel special without any last-minute stress. Tropical fruit ambrosia trifle was the 1970s holiday dream in a glass bowl. Layers of soft sponge cake, whipped cream, coconut flakes, and canned tropical fruit, pineapple, mandarin, and cherries, created a riot of color and flavor. Each spoonful offered sweetness and light, cool and creamy with a tang that brightened the table. It was dessert as spectacle, a centerpiece of abundance that felt exotic and festive at once. In an age of convenience foods and canned delights, ambrosia trifle married ease with elegance. Housewives stacked it with precision, making each layer visible through the glass, proud of their creation. Coconut gave it texture, the syrup from the fruit adding sweetness that felt like sunshine trapped in winter. Families admired it before digging in, spoons clinking as they reached for the best layers. It was a dessert that brought the tropics home, offering escape and comfort in the same breath. Light, nostalgic, and joyfully colorful, tropical fruit ambrosia trifle was the spirit of 1970s celebration, bright, bold, and beautifully alive. Creamed peas on toast represented the practical philosophy that defined Depression-era cooking carried forward into 70s cafeterias. Frozen peas were simmered in a white sauce made from butter, flour, and milk until the sauce thickened enough to coat a spoon. This creamy mixture was spooned generously over slices of white toast that had been lightly buttered and kept warm in steam tables. The toast absorbed the sauce gradually, creating layers of texture from crispy edges to soft, sauce-soaked centers. Some cafeterias added hard-boiled egg slices on top for additional protein and visual appeal. The dish looked simple, but delivered genuine comfort, especially on cold winter days when students needed warming from the inside. Teachers who remembered eating similar meals during their own childhoods often praised the cafeteria for keeping this tradition alive. Creamed peas on toast taught students that deliciousness didn't require complexity, and that vegetables could taste genuinely good when prepared with care. Cornmeal mush with syrup was a humble breakfast favorite that transformed plain cornmeal into a warm, creamy mush sweetened with syrup, offering an affordable and comforting start to the day. This dish was popular in the 1970s because cornmeal was cheap, widely available, and had a long shelf life, making it perfect for families looking to make filling meals with little expense. Cooking cornmeal with water or milk until thickened created a soft base that could be served hot, and drizzling it with maple syrup or molasses added just the right amount of sweetness. Cornmeal mush could be eaten plain or topped with butter or fruit preserves when available, providing simple versatility. This breakfast was gentle on the stomach and quick to prepare, making it an excellent choice for busy mornings or colder seasons. Cornmeal mush with syrup reflected the era's emphasis on practical, hearty food that stretched budgets while keeping the family nourished and satisfied. Cafeteria goulash bore little resemblance to authentic Hungarian cooking, but became beloved comfort food in school lunchrooms nonetheless. Elbow macaroni was combined with ground beef, diced tomatoes, tomato sauce, and a blend of seasonings that varied by region and cook. The mixture simmered together until the pasta absorbed the tomato flavors and the meat distributed evenly throughout the pot. What distinguished goulash from American chop suey was often regional tradition rather than recipe differences, with Midwestern schools particularly attached to the goulash name. Served in deep compartments on lunch trays, the dish provided complete nutrition in a single portion that required only a spoon. Cafeteria ladies could prepare massive batches that held well in steam tables for extended service periods. Students who initially resisted the unfamiliar appearance often became devoted fans after the first bite revealed familiar flavors. Cafeteria goulash taught children that foods with strange names could still taste like home. Egg and cheese breakfast muffins were a simple, affordable way to enjoy a hot breakfast using budget bread or biscuits, scrambled eggs, and melted cheese, popular in the 1970s. These handheld sandwiches could be made in batches, allowing families to feed multiple people quickly without needing expensive ingredients. Eggs provided protein and substance, while cheese added flavor and richness. making the muffins feel like a treat. Using inexpensive bread or homemade biscuits kept costs down while providing a soft, warm base for the fillings. These breakfast muffins were convenient for busy mornings and could be customized with leftovers or seasonal veggies for added nutrition. Their portability made them popular for school lunches or on-the-go meals, reflecting the growing need for quick-filling breakfasts in American households. Egg and cheese breakfast muffins captured the essence of 1970s budget-conscious cooking, simple, satisfying, and made with love from what was available. Chocolate cherry wreaths were edible ornaments of love and cheer. Drop cookies shaped into small rings, they shimmered with candied cherries pressed on top. Their deep cocoa flavor mixed beautifully with the jeweled sweetness of fruit. On baking sheets lined with parchment, they looked like tiny garlands ready for celebration. The smell of chocolate filled the air, wrapping the house in comfort. These cookies were made for sharing, wrapped in ribbon, placed on trays, given with a smile. They brought color to every cookie swap and warmth to every home. Biting into one felt like biting into December itself, rich, festive, full of heart. Chocolate cherry wreaths were proof that beauty did not need to be grand, only made with care. Their glossy tops and soft centers made them a favorite that deserved to return to modern kitchens. Vegetable beef soup was the cafeteria's answer to using every scrap of food while creating something genuinely nourishing and delicious. Beef scraps and bones were simmered for hours to create rich broth. Then diced vegetables were added according to what was available in the walk-in cooler. Carrots, potatoes, celery, corn, green beans, and tomatoes joined the pot in varying combinations that made each batch unique. The soup simmered until vegetables were tender and flavors had melded into something deeply satisfying. Served with crackers or fresh rolls, a bowl of vegetable beef soup provided complete nutrition in liquid form. Students who felt under the weather often requested soup, knowing it would warm them through without requiring much effort to eat. Cafeteria ladies adjusted seasonings by taste, adding bay leaves, thyme, and pepper until the broth achieved proper depth. Vegetable beef soup exemplified the waste-nothing philosophy that defined institutional cooking at its best. Simple tomato and cucumber salad was a fresh yet inexpensive salad that combined widely available vegetables with a basic dressing, perfect for adding a light and refreshing element to budget meals in the 1970s. Tomatoes and cucumbers were often grown in home gardens or purchased cheaply at markets, making this salad accessible to many families. The dressing was typically made from vinegar, oil, salt, and pepper, keeping preparation easy and cost low. This crisp salad provided a much-needed contrast to the heavier, starch and protein-focused dishes common during the era. It was a popular side dish for summer dinners or potlucks, offering both flavor and nutrition without demanding much time or money. Simple tomato and cucumber salad was an ideal example of how modest ingredients could come together to brighten the meal and support a balanced diet even during tight economic times. Scalloped potatoes with ham cubes was the casserole that cafeteria ladies pulled out when they needed to feed hundreds with limited protein resources. Thin sliced potatoes were layered with cubed ham, onions, and white sauce in deep hotel pans, then baked until the top turned golden and the potatoes underneath became tender. The white sauce, made from butter, flour, and milk, transformed during baking into a creamy binding that held each portion together when served. Students discovered that the edges of the pan contained the best pieces, where potatoes had crisped against the metal while absorbing ham flavor. A little ham went a long way in this dish, with its smoky, salty taste permeating every layer of potato. The casserole could be prepared a day ahead and reheated without losing quality, making it perfect for busy cafeteria schedules. Scalloped potatoes with ham represented the institutional kitchen's mastery of stretching expensive protein into satisfying portions for all. Meatball subs with store-brand meatballs were an affordable twist on a classic sandwich, using budget-friendly frozen or canned meatballs smothered in tomato sauce and served in soft bread, popular in 1970s American homes. These subs allowed families to enjoy the comforting flavors of meatballs without the labor or cost of making them from scratch. Store-brand options helped keep prices low, and the tomato sauce added moisture and tang, making the sandwich satisfying and flavorful. using simple white or Italian-style bread as the base turned the meatballs into a handheld meal that was perfect for quick lunches or dinners. This dish was often served with a side of chips or salad to round out the meal affordably. Meatball subs with store-brand meatballs captured the practical, hearty spirit of 1970s cooking, making the most of convenience foods while delivering familiar and beloved tastes. Salmon croquettes appeared on cafeteria menus when budget constraints required creative protein solutions during the middle of the month. Canned salmon was mashed with crushed saltine crackers, beaten eggs, and minced onion until the mixture held together enough to form into oval patties. These patties were dredged in cracker crumbs and fried until golden brown and crispy outside while staying moist and flaky within. The salmon flavor was mild and slightly sweet, nothing like fresh fish, but comforting in its own institutional way. Cafeteria ladies served them with tartar sauce and often paired them with creamed peas or macaroni salad. Children either loved or hated salmon croquettes, with little middle ground, but those who loved them remembered the crispy exterior giving way to tender fish inside. The recipe stretched expensive protein into affordable portions while providing genuine nutrition. Salmon croquettes represented practical cooking wisdom that prioritized feeding children well. Canned potato salad was a quick and inexpensive side dish that used canned potatoes combined with budget-friendly dressings like mayonnaise and vinegar to create a satisfying accompaniment for meals. This dish was especially handy in the 1970s when fresh potatoes might not be affordable or readily available for every meal. Using canned potatoes saved time and effort, while simple seasonings and onions added flavor without extra cost. Potato salad was often served cold, making it ideal for potlucks, picnics, or just a refreshing counterpoint to heavier main dishes. Its creamy texture and tangy taste made it a crowd pleaser among families seeking comfort food that did not strain their wallets. This recipe demonstrated how pantry staples could be turned into tasty sides with minimal ingredients and preparation, fitting perfectly into the thrifty lifestyle many households practiced during the decade. Now this one came out of left field, unless you grew up near a Chinatown diner. The egg foo young sandwich was one of those things that made 0 cents on paper, but the second you took a bite, you stopped asking questions. Start with an egg patty, crispy on the outside, soft on the inside, and packed with bean sprouts, green onions, maybe a little chopped pork or shrimp if you got the good kind. Then came the gravy. Not just poured, but drenched. Thick brown gravy ladled right over the patty until it practically dripped off the sides. Slide the whole thing into a hamburger bun, close it up, and prepare yourself for the kind of meal that laughs in the face of napkins. It was heavy, hot, and heartwarming. The egg foo young sandwich felt like the kind of invention you only make when you are really hungry and just messing around in the kitchen. But in the 1970s, this was a lunchtime legend for anyone who knew where to find it. Of course, if you were not lucky enough to live near a place that served one of these, you probably grew up with something even saltier, way more military, and still showing up on diner menus today, as potato and onion soup was a warming, economical soup made from pantry basics, perfect for chilly evenings in the 1970s when budgets were tight and comfort was needed most. Combining simple potatoes and onions with water or broth, this soup relied on long simmering to coax out deep flavors without the need for costly ingredients. The potatoes lent body and creaminess to the broth, while the onions added sweetness and aroma. Basic seasonings like salt, pepper, and herbs could be used to keep things interesting without inflating costs. This soup was often served with bread or crackers, turning it into a satisfying and frugal meal that could feed an entire family. Its simplicity made it easy to prepare, requiring minimal time and skill, which was essential in many households juggling tight schedules and tight finances. Potato and onion soup became a beloved staple for those seeking nourishment and warmth without spending much, embodying the heart of 1970s home cooking. Butterscotch pudding was the cafeteria dessert that proved scratch cooking could outperform any instant mix. Brown sugar was melted with butter until it developed deep caramel notes, then milk, eggs, and cornstarch were whisked in and cooked slowly until the mixture thickened into silky pudding. The from scratch version had a richness that instant pudding could never match, with butterscotch flavor that actually tasted like butter and scotch. Poured into cups and chilled, the pudding developed a thin skin on top that some students loved and others carefully peeled away. Whipped cream or a vanilla wafer sometimes crowned each serving, adding textural contrast. Students traded other desserts for butterscotch pudding, recognizing its superiority. Cafeteria bakers took pride in their pudding, stirring constantly to prevent scorching. This dessert reminded everyone that patience and skill created flavors worth waiting for. Split pea patties were a tasty and thrifty dish that used cooked split peas combined with simple binders to create flavorful fried patties perfect as a meat alternative. In the 1970s, when budgets were tight and fresh meat was often pricey, split peas offered an affordable source of protein and fiber that could be stretched into multiple meals. The cooked peas were mashed and mixed with binders like flour, breadcrumbs, or eggs to form a mixture that could be shaped into patties. Frying these patties created a crispy outer crust with a tender inside, making them a satisfying addition to lunches or dinners. Split pea patties could be served on their own, with sauces or in sandwiches, adding variety and flavor to humble ingredients. This dish was a clever example of how affordable legumes were transformed into family-friendly meals that did not sacrifice taste or nutrition. Like I said, one of the most popular things to get were meatloaves with crackers, and there was a reason for that. It was just the typical food of the country, the same way you go to China and get chop suey, or you go to Pakistan and get biryani, you get meatloaf in America. Lots of families had typically been raised to perfect their meatloaf, with recipes being handed down across generations of families, wives, home chefs, and guardians. I make it sound like some medieval treasure being passed down the aristocracy, but it was really just a dish that you for sure knew you could rely on. Whether you were having a rainy day, a good one, or something in between, there was rarely an occasion a meatloaf couldn't be tweaked for. Plus, like I was talking about earlier, most families were sizable. Today we have a 50% divorce rate, pre-planned parenthood, and families that are settling for going childless, adopting, or keeping it to just 1 or 2 kids. Back then, the opposite really was true, and the budget for that wasn't nearly enough. People couldn't afford individual meals for everyone, but a meatloaf could serve everybody. People would often top it with Ritz crackers before baking it for a really nice and crispy exterior, or just crumble the crackers and throw them on there anyway. It was a nice little adornment to a dish that had otherwise been overdone to the moon and back. Bagel with lox and cream cheese became the star of brunch tables during the 1970s, marrying rich flavor with quick assembly. Fresh bagels were sliced and lightly toasted before being generously spread with smooth cream cheese. Thin slices of silky smoked salmon, known as lox, were layered on top, sometimes finished with slivers of red onion, capers, or a squeeze of lemon juice for brightness. This combination created a satisfying mix of creamy, smoky, and tangy tastes that felt indulgent yet sophisticated. Preparation took only a few minutes, allowing busy hosts to serve a dish that impressed without stress. The bagel's chewiness balanced the delicate fish and creamy spread, making each bite memorable. Popular in delis and home kitchens alike, this dish reflected the decades' love of cosmopolitan flavors and quick morning meals. It remains a beloved choice for anyone seeking a fast but elegant breakfast or brunch experience. Buttered rum bread pudding was comfort-baked golden. Thick cubes of bread soaked in custard and drenched with buttery rum sauce turned humble leftovers into rich celebration. It was a dessert that spoke of warmth, one that made winter feel softer. The rum added just enough spirit to transform sweetness into sophistication. It baked slowly, the edges crisping while the center stayed tender and fragrant. Steam rose as the sauce was poured over the top, glossy, amber, and irresistible. Every bite balanced decadence and thrift, reminding eaters that old bread could still make magic. Families made it after holidays, turning remnants into something worthy of the main event. It was often served warm, a scoop of melting cream on top making it heavenly. Buttered rum bread pudding was a bridge between comfort and luxury, the perfect embodiment of home kitchens in the 1970s. It was food that asked for no decoration, just quiet appreciation. The last bite lingered, heavy with sweetness and light with memory. Hot dog boats were the creative presentation that made ordinary Frankfurters feel like something special on cafeteria trays. Hot dogs were split lengthwise and placed in soft buns that cradled them like small boats, then topped with chili, cheese, or onions depending on the day. The loaded hot dog satisfied bigger appetites than plain Franks while using the same basic ingredients in a more appealing format. Chili was ladled hot over the split dogs, followed by shredded cheddar that melted into the rich sauce. Some cafeterias offered a choice of toppings, letting students customize according to preference. The presentation made eating more fun, with students navigating the toppings without spilling onto their trays. Hot dog boats appeared regularly on menus when protein budgets were tight, but expectations remained high. This creative presentation proved that how food looked mattered as much as how it tasted. Carrot ring mold was part of the gelatin craze that dominated many potluck tables in the 1970s. Mashed carrots were blended with gelatin and chilled into a ring mold, creating a firm yet colorful dish. The center of the ring was often filled with peas or green beans, turning it into both a vegetable and a centerpiece. It was sweetened lightly to balance the carrot's natural earthiness, making it more appealing to guests. Housewives served it at luncheons and buffets where presentation mattered just as much as taste. The ring shape gave it a sense of occasion, while the vegetables inside provided texture and contrast. Though unusual by today's standards, it was considered a clever way to encourage families to eat their vegetables. Carrot ring mold carried the signature look of the decade: colorful, playful, and just a little experimental. It was part salad, part side dish, and part decoration, proving how creative home cooks were willing to be. Fish head soup is definitely a name that raises some eyebrows, and for good reason. Yes, this does actually include actual fish heads, and this traditional dish is both budget-friendly and rich with flavor. The idea to use heads of fish like cod or salmon was basically because these were the typical catches of the day. You had things like catfish and snappers too, but you had an infinitely better shot of catching some cod than you did of anything else, really. Now, what was the logic here? Have you ever heard of people using animal fat for flavor? Bacon grease or lard? It's kind of the same concept. Fish heads end up significantly improving the flavor of the dishes they're in, or in this case, the soups, because they have the right amounts of the right stuff. They have a really dense concentration of fat and also a lot of oils in the cheeks and eyes. The collagen has a nice umami taste, and it works exceptionally well in broths and stews. All of that together helps to keep the meat in the soup tender while making sure every spoonful is twice as flavorful as it would be otherwise. Hey, it's icky, but it's something. Cold sesame noodle cups offered a refreshing Asian-inspired snack that perfectly matched the adventurous palate of the 1970s. Pre-cooked noodles were rinsed in cold water and tossed with a bottled sesame dressing rich with soy sauce, rice vinegar, and toasted sesame oil. Thinly sliced scallions, shredded carrots, and a sprinkle of sesame seeds added color and crunch. The dish could be prepared hours ahead and served chilled in small cups, making it ideal for picnics or late-night gatherings. The nutty aroma and savory sweet flavor introduced many Americans to the taste of East Asian cuisine while fitting neatly into the quick and easy category. Hosts loved how it stayed flavorful even after sitting out for a while, and guests enjoyed the cool, slippery texture on warm days. With just minutes of preparation and no need for a stove once the noodles were boiled, these cups became a favorite for lively summer parties. American chop suey in a Tupperware bowl was the culinary equivalent of a shrug. Pasta, ground beef, tomato sauce, and whatever else your mom had lying around. It was not pretty, but it filled you up. The noodles were usually elbows, the meat was always overcooked, and the sauce was probably from a jar. Still, it had heart. It had the kind of comfort only a plastic lid could seal in. You would open it at lunch, and the steam would hit your face like a warm blanket that smelled like oregano. Some kids wrinkled their noses, others traded a fruit roll-up for a few bites. It was the kind of lunch that got better the longer it sat. Something about the way the noodles soaked up the sauce made it taste like home. And if it was cold, Even better, you could fork it straight from the fridge and feel like a rebel. It was not Chinese, it was not Italian, it was just American. And it worked. Marinated artichoke hearts delivered Mediterranean charm straight from the pantry to the plate with almost no effort. Tender artichoke hearts were taken from a jar of seasoned oil and herbs, their leaves already infused with garlic, oregano, and lemon. Served as is, or lightly warmed, they offered a tangy bite that stood out among typical American side dishes. Hosts simply drained the jar, arranged the glistening pieces on a platter, and maybe added a sprinkle of fresh parsley for color. Guests loved the unique flavor and pleasantly soft texture, and many discovered artichokes for the first time through this simple preparation. It was a perfect example of how imported ingredients gained popularity during the 1970s as people grew curious about global tastes. With no chopping or cooking required, marinated artichoke hearts turned an ordinary evening into something a little more sophisticated while keeping the clock firmly under 5 minutes from jar to table. Pickle sandwiches are the same deal. They're just something we're all too used to, and that wasn't truer than it was in the 70s. Now, pickle sandwiches have definitely fallen out of style lately. I mean, we just have too many more options. Plus, people are more interested in making flashy dishes for social media than keeping it minimal and simple. Although, see, the difference between a pickle sandwich today is the kind of meanings you attach to it. Today, people would think it's healthy, or as if you're on a diet. Back then, it was just a giveaway that you were working for bad pay at a bad job, or maybe it was a good job, but the pay wouldn't be enough either way. Meals like these were seen as ration food, and the people that were eating them immediately were seen as strugglers from lower-class communities. If you were bringing a pickle sandwich to work every day, on top of your job already being pretty intensive labor-wise, people only had one conclusion to draw from that, and that was that you were probably poor. Pickle jars were just a few cents, and they would last an incredible amount of time, so it makes sense why it became such a common lunch for people who were struggling. But I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that's a sign of poverty, though I'm sure people did take it that way in the 70s. I mean, what's next? Someone calling you broke for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? See how stupid that sounds? What if you just really like pickles? Which 1970s recipe deserves a comeback? Share your memories in the comments below, hit like if this took you back, and subscribe so you never miss another taste of the past.